Welcome to the Dynasty Podcast. I am your host, Corey Sal Paradiso Han. I am joined, as always, by Ben Jesus Ziegler. We're back, week 3, Ben. Pretty excited about this week. I think we'll be a little less tuned up than we were last week, and we got some good content. But first and foremost, tell me about your 4th of July band performance and the party that went on down there. I was pretty excited to hear about it and haven't heard anything about it.
It was a fundraiser, so 4th of July called Tampa Palooza. We had like 5 bands. It was fun. The turnout was okay, but we raised some money, so I guess that's all that matters for a good cause for the community.
What was
And
the
we played
what was the
last
cause?
just for our local, like for the Adi Tamarindo, which is like
Oh
our,
yeah,
I don't know if you would call it our Chamber of Commerce, especially the organization that gets things done infrastructure wise here. So yeah, it
good
was.
old Adi.
That's right.
Yeah, awesome. Did you have a hoot? Is your voice a little bit squandered because of the howling at the moon, or what? What time did you go to bed on the 4th of July? Maybe that's a fair question.
11:30 maybe.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean we played 10:30. No, we played like 10:15 to like 11:15 because we didn't have a regular bassist, so we had a fill in. So we did like half of our set, but we had already been on like the printed T-shirts that were being sold for fundraising. So
right.
we had to figure out like how to play. Um, so yeah, that was kind of, I don't know, interesting. But the guy we got was like excellent, so we were able to, you know, we were able to do way more than we thought we would.
Nice. Yeah, you saved me one of those T-shirts, right?
Oh yeah, there's
Awesome.
there's there's a few extras too. If you're looking to donate to charity, we'll send you one for all our
You
listeners
know,
out there.
I might be able to throw down a few bucks eventually. I actually just started creating my hats. I'm pretty excited about for my second annual charity golf tournament. So that's one of my favorite things to do. I'm going all out on the hats this year, so I get it. But I actually got a $5,000 sponsor this year to pay for the hats, where I didn't have that last year and had to come out of pocket. So, anywho, it's fun throwing huge events for good causes, and I'm proud of you for doing that. Um, so we have a jam-packed schedule today. We're going to review the NFC East and the AFC East. We're going to talk about some buy low candidates, some risk reward type players in fantasy football. We're going to talk about players that we will not touch with Ben's penis. And then we are going to go on to the trade that happened not too long ago and kind of review that. And then we're going to discuss the upcoming. No, I'm sorry. We're going to review rounds 1 through 2 for sure, and possibly round 3 if we have time. And then we're going to go into a little bit of auction talk and just kind of prepare the owners for what to expect during the bloodbath that is the auction. So, without further ado, let's start with the review of the AFC East and flip a coin. Ben, you get to go first. We have the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, the New York Jets, and the New England Patriots.
Yeah, I mean this division has kind of like, I don't know, it's been in purgatory for a while, and I think there's like the Bills are just the guys that are going to do it all, and I don't think anyone's close to competing for that division. Um, I'm really skeptical on Miami right now. I don't really know what they're doing, but I guess if they're going to trade Jalen Ramsey, they might have got a decent haul for it. But it sounds like, I don't know, when you're firing assets away, it doesn't sound like Tyreek Hill is happy. It sounds like a bunch of other vets aren't happy. So I bet like Mike McDaniel getting fired first is a pretty good bet. Like if they were to start out 2-6, I mean, he could get waxed. It's just a shit show. I don't know. They were very good. They can win games. They have lots of offensive talent. They have some good, you know, guys on the D line, but you get on the roster and you're just like, I don't even know what this team is supposed to be. So, and then you have the Pats, who were supposed to be the bottom basement team last year, but they did pretty good. Drake May looks like the real deal. And they had a bunch of weapons, and they got Mike Vrabel. And Mike
Right.
Vrabel's good at coaching. He always like over delivers with shit talent, and I think they actually have pretty decent talent. So, and the Jets are the Jets. I mean, the Jets are abysmal. They're going to be abysmal. Um, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't think they did anything to make me think that they're winning more than 6 games. So,
Yeah, they won 5 last year, so I think Fields. I think the way the Jets choose to run their offense with Fields, and if they just try to run him into the ground and let him be kind of a halfback slash quarterback, and run the ball with Brees Hall and Braylon Allen and play good defense, like they can be competitive. I think they can be just as competitive as they were last year with Rodgers. If I'm being honest, I think it'll be a completely different offense, but um, yeah, I mean, I kind of see it the way you do. I mean, obviously Buffalo's the darling of the division, and there's nobody that's going to compete with them. They could probably win 13, 14 games if they stay healthy. I would have the Patriots finishing second over the Dolphins, and the Jets kind of battling it out for third and fourth place. None of which I think are going to win more than 6 or 7 games. I could see the Patriots winning 7 or 8 games though, and taking the second spot in the division. So like you said, I think it's really just a matter of the Bills running away with it, and the rest of them kind of fighting for not making the playoffs. Um,
yeah. I mean, it sounds like we're pretty in line. I don't know if you think the Jets can finish ahead of Miami. I don't think they can. So my order is Buffalo, then the Patriots, then Miami, then the Jets.
well, let's talk a little bit more about the Bills then, because they seem to be the one that obviously has the talent to kind of have some fantasy impact. So, um, where do you see their offense going this year? Are they going to stick with running with James Cook and trying to take the load off of Allen, or is Allen going to just do all out things during the offseason and prepare for a style of football that's going to win them playoff games?
I honestly think we do this every year, and every year it's the same.
Yeah.
It's just Allen's going to put the team on his back when they need to. They'll run the ball when they can. You know, they'll have good defensive days and bad defensive days. I don't think they really rotated in and out too many people to get worse or better. I think they're just running back another team that had experience and keeps getting close, and I don't think it's a bad idea. They added some guys, on offense, but for the most part, if James Cook becomes like a holdout problem, um, it would be interesting to see what they would do in that case. They have some decent backups, but not.
Yeah, they have Ty Johnson and Ray Davis behind him. I don't think he's going to get an extension before the season starts, and probably has to play through the contract. But spoiler alert, we might be talking a little bit about James Cook later on in the episode.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, I think this one's pretty easy to kind of rank the top. Probably only one playoff team in my opinion, and I think, like you said, Vrabel, I think landing at the Patriots after getting passed up last year for a coaching job is kind of almost serendipitous. Seems like a perfect fit to kind of take them to the next level. I think they can, be efficient enough on offense. Drake May can take a next step. I think they added Diggs and the other Kyle Williams, the rookie wide receiver. So I think, and Henderson. So they got stronger on offense, and Vrabel's gonna have that defense rocking and rolling. So I feel like that's an easy second, and then Dolphins and Jets just kind of bringing up the trash of the division. So we'll move on. There's not too much to talk about from a ranking standpoint there, and we'll move on
No,
to
I do think if Vrabel got them to the playoffs, New England, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd give it a coin flip. I think it's more, it's just as likely as not. I think he just run if he can run the type of program and team that he wants to year one, they're gonna just grind out games, you know. Um, Kind of like Tomlin, like they just always seem to figure it out, even if you don't feel great about their rosters.
yeah, and I haven't looked at their overall schedule to see who they play not out of the AFC East, but I think if you look at the whole division, we haven't talked about the AFC West yet, but the Bills are probably going to make the playoffs. Not probably, they will. You have the Ravens and the Steelers and the Bengals in the AFC North. Two of those three are definitely getting in. Um, and then you have the Texans, probably the front runner in the AFC South. Kansas City and Chargers and the Broncos have, I think I would put the I would put the Patriots almost on that level of the Los Angeles Chargers and the Broncos if they can get, rocking and rolling and, protect the football, play good defense. I think they have not maybe as good of a chance of making the playoffs as those two teams, but I would put them in a category just below. So um, we'll see. I think it'll be an interesting division and conference actually to see who gets into the playoffs from the AFC. And we still have the AFC West to talk about, so we'll save
Right.
that for next week. So we'll move on to the NFC East. We have the Eagles, Commanders, Cowboys, and Giants. I'm just going to go ahead and rank these in my order first, and then we can have an open discussion about it. But I do have the Philadelphia Eagles repeating as the East champ. I'm going to push the Dallas Cowboys ahead of the Washington Commanders this year. I do believe that um, Washington will regress. The major reason I feel that's going to happen is because Jaden Daniels had an amazing rookie season. I think he far surpassed expectations, but I do think his play style, in year two is going to maybe not catch people off guard quite as much. There's always that slim frame that you have to worry about. I mean, he was dynamite, absolutely dynamite in his rookie season, but I think there's probably some regression going for coming their way, in my opinion, on offense. But and I think the Cowboys, like we might talk about them a little bit later in one of the segments. Adding Pickens, I think is going to be overall good for their offense. I did see that Turpin might be in a little bit of trouble, which could impact them from a special team standpoint and kind of that extra slot receiver other than Jalen Tolbert. But I think they're going to air it out. They're going to put up points if they can stay healthy on defense and pass rush. I think they have as good of a chance to make the playoffs of anybody in that division other than the Eagles. And so I see kind of the Washington Commanders and Dallas Cowboys more around 10 wins apiece instead of the Commanders winning 12 and 5. I think Commanders also won some pretty close games. They were 7-2 at home. Cowboys were 2-7 at home, which is just I don't understand how you can be 2-7 and make the playoffs. Obviously, as
Keep
Cowboys,
getting blinded by their
blinded by
own
the light.
stadium.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the Giants. Fuck, you know outside of neighbors, I can't think of anybody on that team that I would really want to have in fantasy. I'm not a Russ fan or a believer. And so, good luck if you're a Giants fan. I think they'll be picking the top three or four in the draft next year, and probably get their quarterback of the future.
Yeah, I think their defense will win them more games than that, but and Russ, like, he showed he can kind of, I don't know, manage his way into a few wins. I guess it'll be all on like how soon they put in Jackson Dart. That'll
Yeah.
kind of define it. If he's in early, then they're probably gonna just suck. Just because he'll have the growing pains and everything like that. But like, yeah, I'm with you offensively. Nothing special. Their O line got better, but I think their defense is coming around and being built out well, and the D line's good. So, I mean, Abdul Carter is going to be really good, and the fact that Kayvon Thibodeau is probably, you know, a backup now, a rotation guy, that's a pretty filthy rotation, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, they only
Um,
scored 273 points last year and had 415 scored on them at a negative 142 point differentiator. So,
yeah,
I
but I
mean,
think they played like seven shitty quarterbacks or something like that. So
yeah, they
that'll
were
do
all
it.
on offense. I think they have the potential to score more points than that. Let's see what Scadaboo brings to the table. I'm not a big fan of Tyrone Tracy moving forward. I think he was just kind of situationally, blessed last year because they didn't really have much else. And I don't think he will have the same production that he had last year, or, let's say he regresses by 20% of whatever he produced last year and be more of a third down kind of change of pace back as opposed to, having the touches that he did throughout the season last year. I like the Scadaboo in New York thing. I think that could be kind of fun and interesting if they can use him correctly, and he could catch
Not
the
as
ball.
high as Scatterboo as most people, but I think he'll be good enough, you know? Especially for he's going in drafts, you need him just be a 1B or a change of pace guy, and that's fine. I disagree with you completely on Tyrone Tracy
Okay.
because he was like fourth on the depth chart. He beat everyone out. Beat out
Well,
Singletary, beat out
Singletary.
Gray, he beat out, well, there was guys there, beat them all out, and then did well with a bad offensive line and not very many holes.
I just
So,
don't like his frame, and I just don't think he's meant to be a three down back. But we can find out. There's a reason why they drafted a pounder in Scadaboo. Yeah, and I don't think Devin Singletary's. I think he's just a jag.
well,
But
I think what you needed they needed to draft somebody specifically because everyone behind him is trash. Like Devin Singletary's, he
yeah,
was done in Buffalo, and then he just showed he was really done. I mean, he was really bad. Um, so they need a 1-2 punch like most all teams do, right? You don't even if Tracy can, be a three down back, you don't want him touting the ball 85% of the time. I mean, he's not Derrick Henry
yeah. No,
or
I agree.
Saquon Barkley. So in those cases, and every team needs two guys, so to say, and they didn't have one, so now I think they have two, and I think they'll both have good fantasy return value. And
Yeah.
that's like you said, neighbors, and then good luck
Who, who
with
else?
guessing who else. Yeah, from week to week. I don't know if I agree with you with the Cowboys take. Um, their offensive line is getting better. Unless Jaden Blue's very good, like very good, their running game is going to be very trash. Javonte Williams is trash. Miles Sanders is trash. Like they're not good at football anymore. They're just not. Their metrics, everything show they are horrible running backs.
Well,
So,
this will get interesting because that is a segment for later on today.
okay, that's fine. But I'm telling you, like, if you can't run the ball,
Is their
yeah,
offensive line not top 10 in the NFL anymore, or is
no
that just a
fucking way. It was
no?
last year, and they kind of filled it. They got a couple guys. They're on their way. It's not going to be top 10. They're probably another year away. But can Dak and CD and Pickens, like, I don't know, air it out and score enough? I mean, they kind of did in the past, but new coach, like, I don't know. Let's see. Could be another dumpster fire of a year. The only thing I got going for him is that I think if I remember correctly, no two, no, what is it? No same two teams have finished at the top like in 20 years in that division.
Well, there's definitely going to be surprises, right? Like, I mean, it's not going to be chalk like, year after
Yeah, but
year.
I mean, I think Washington got better and Philly didn't get worse. So I don't know. Dallas has to run really hot, and Washington would have to regress. But I thought they got better on defense. I thought they got better um, on their line. Like I don't know. I think they're going to be okay. We'll
Is
see.
Rivera still the coach in Washington?
Yeah,
Well, I mean, I think the culture he's built, they had a pretty amazing season last year. I mean, they did win some close games. Obviously, the Bears game was one of them. I remember that quite well. Like they definitely etched out some victories that could possibly not go their way this year. But man, they had not the Eagles, but what was it? Who did they lose to in the playoffs? I can't remember. Was it the Eagles?
sharp today. I thought the
Was it a Niner? No. They
Niners
lost.
didn't make the playoffs.
They won the first because they almost made the Super Bowl, so they lost to
I
the
thought they played
Eagles.
against the Eagles in the.
Yeah, but they got blown out by the Eagles.
Yeah, but the Eagles are the Eagles. I mean, the
Yeah.
Eagles are the problem.
So to put on a bow on Tyrone Tracy, he had 245 touches last year, 192 on the ground. I don't see him getting 192 carries this year. I could see him catching more passes, but whether or not he gets to 240 overall touches, I don't think he does. But still good return on the draft capital if you drafted him. Especially last year. But moving forward, I would be a seller, and you're not. You're a hold or buy.
They got a fucking check down Charlie game manager running their offense.
Yeah. Well, Russ does like to air it out too, so Malik Neighbors might be catching a few more deep balls this year, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like the only reason Javante Williams had value last year was because he caught like fucking eight dump offs a game, or 2 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, it was a couple years ago because
That's when he was like still holding value because he kept catching so many balls out of the backfield because Russ would just bomb it or check down. I think I was seeing like Russ's across the middle numbers are like historically bad for the last like 3 years.
yeah, I think old Russ is about done. I don't have any faith in him remaining the quarterback past 6 or 7 games, if that. So we'll see what Jackson Dart does. I forgot that they drafted him. I said that they probably get their quarterback next year in the draft, and they still might, depending on how Dart does and where they end up in the draft. But I think they'll go to him early and see what he has because Russ is just a short term, stopgap for their future. So, all right. Well, that is the AFC, or I'm sorry, the NFC East. We're going to move on to our first segment called the Top 5 Buy Low Candidates. Not surprisingly, I think you focused on some IDP players. Is that correct?
I didn't pick any offensive players. It seems silly if we both do.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't plan that, but it's kind of funny that that's the way it turned out. So go ahead, let it loose on your top five.
No, why don't you go first? Your offense, and then I'll do defense after. That makes more
You want to play
sense.
defense? Okay, all right. Uh, all right, the first one that I have is Rashad Bateman. I'm a buy low candidate. He's a fourth year player. Uh, I think he has very limited depth behind him. Obviously they have Zay Flowers, they have Hopkins that signed there, who I think is washed. I think there's going to be continue to be decreasing targets for Andrews. So really, the only other person that can compete for touches is Likely. And then I think every year he's kind of gotten a little bit better. He hasn't got a ton of targets, and I think it's we forget quickly how it used to be where it was a third year receiver kind of breakout, and then there was a couple of fireballs that came into the league and kind of spoiled it, thinking that we have to have rookies. Perform in year one or year two, and I think I can see them pounding the ball and airing it out a little bit more at the same time and just being an explosive offense. I think Zay Flowers will be the reception leader, but I could easily see Rashad Bateman having, a 10-15% increase would put him out like 58 receptions, about 850 yards and 7 TDs. How many TDs do you think Rashad Bateman had last year?
I'm
Just
trying to
off the,
remember because he had like one good year and then he had one really bad year with touchdowns. Was it
yeah,
two
no,
or was
I
it
almost
eight?
he
Didn't
had
he go like?
nine. He
Okay,
had
so he had
9 touchdowns last year.
okay, so he had nine last year. I think he had two the year before. So that's where I'm
Yeah,
confused.
which
I
I
own
just
shares of him, so
I found that to be when I looked it up this morning, I was just shocked. So he had 45 receptions for 756 yards last year and 9 touchdowns. So if you kick that up to 58 for 850 and 7 TDs, I think that's a pretty good value if you can get him, in sixth or seventh round or even the eighth round as like a wide receiver three or a four like flex player, or just like a $3 auction player. I think he can improve on what he did last year. I think he'll regress from a TD standpoint, but
well,
that's my
Bateman didn't go for $3 anywhere. Not that I saw.
well. Well, I think maybe people have forgotten about him a little bit. And there's new wide receivers coming in the league and blah blah blah. I think if you're patient with him and you get him on the cheap, maybe $3 to $5 in an auction. I
I
don't.
mean, I saw him go for like 45, I think, in the startup that we
What?
did.
In a $100 auction league or 200?
No, what do you mean $100? Are you talking about dynasty
Oh, no,
leagues
no,
or
no.
are you talking
I'm just
about
talking
some
about
redraft
general. I'm
auction
I'm not talking
price?
about our leagues in the auction. No, there's no way he would go. He would go for
When you refer to
140.
auction values, you're talking about like Yahoo redraft, like out of $100, what he
Well,
would cost?
well, Ben, you remember these segments were supposed to be about just general football. We're not talking about BC
Okay, but
specifically.
I'm
That's
not.
their
We're
segment.
not in the Yahoo leagues, so when you say he's got a $3 auction value, when we're in all dynasty
Yeah,
contract leagues,
I'm in one Yahoo league, so I was just trying
okay.
to speak to the masses here as opposed to
So in
being.
those, he's probably a dollar or two. I mean, like you spend, don't you just spend like all your money on studs and then pay a dollar for everyone? That's what I remember.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I mean, again, we're kind of trying to work out these segments to just talk to more of the masses. So probably not an area that we play in at all anymore. I have one
Well,
league that
my
I've been
segment's
in.
useless if you play in Yahoo auction leagues, offense only, and $100. So we're
Right.
not playing to that type of crowd, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I'm in a little bit more competitive one than that. But in any regards, I think, what would Rashad Bateman go for then in an auction in BC? Let's just throw that out there.
In BC, probably $125, 135, maybe more. Maybe you'd
I
go
would
more.
I would say, depending on who else is in the market, he could go for 165.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's hard to know. We'd have to we'll do it later. We'll see how
Yeah,
shallow
well,
things
but that's
are.
that's a good one to kind of prep for the auction later. Just using some of these names like
Hmm.
that we're talking about. I mean, I don't think there's going to be anybody on my list that would go for less than 130. So, anyway, I
Okay.
expect kind of an increased workload for Bateman this year. I think he's a good buy low candidate.
I
Next one
hope
I
you're
have,
right. I got a
yeah,
bunch of them.
next one I have is Quentin Johnson. Yeah, old QJ. We got to remember he was a top four draft pick in our leagues in the 16 team leagues. 2 years ago? Year three player. If you look at his stats from last year, I don't remember these games, but I almost shit my pants again. The first week, guess how many targets he had? And how many receptions?
Wasn't Lad hurt early?
I think Ladd was just a rookie.
I think Lad was hurt for the first few weeks.
I'd have to look that up, but
I
you know,
think he got volume and then he had some drops. What was it like? 9 targets, 7 receptions, 6 receptions.
well, maybe I had the wrong stats for him. Um, I thought I thought I saw something where he had 12 targets in week one. Maybe that was in 2003. That might have been 2003. Regardless, he finished the year last year with 55 receptions, 711 yards, and guess how many touchdowns?
Four?
Eight. Eight
Eight
touchdowns.
again. Well,
Which I found to be crazy. Like he never really put a big game together. The most receptions he had last year. I'm sorry, this is right. The last week of the season, he had 14 targets, or I'm sorry, week 15, 14 targets with 13 receptions for 186 yards.
that was the game Lad was out, right?
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So they added the rookie. I think okay, it usually takes a little bit of time to adjust, but I just don't think that it's time to give up on him quite yet. Ladd's the primary target. I think they're going to be able to run the football and play action. And I think if he stops clapping his hands to catch the football and stays on the field, like I think he can put up 60 receptions for 808 again. And I think that's a pretty decent, again, kind of that volume, like wide receiver three or kind of wide receiver four on your team.
Yeah, I mean, like the Trey Harris hype is off the chain. So like I don't know. Um, I'm not really sure what to think about him. I know that they got Mike Williams back, and I don't believe in that at all. We talked about that before.
Well, he'll
So
land on his head in the second week, and then he'll be out for 5 weeks. So I mean, it's
I just like Harbaugh's not slinging the ball, man. Harbaugh's gonna be top 5 in rushing attempts every year.
yeah.
So I mean, it still can create volume, to an extent, you
I
know.
think if they can run the ball efficiently, though, right, and they can score points on offense and keep the chains moving, you got to put the ball in Herbert's hand at some point and let him throw the rock around. And I don't know about their defense. You would imagine their defense is going to be, middle of the league. Um, and so they're going to have
Harbaugh,
to
man,
score
he's
points.
over cheesed everywhere.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past him. I just think the hardest thing, and especially the contract leagues we're in, is you need to extend him, right? So if he was picked 104 and he was $70 and he's $89 now, this is like a danger zone because if he doesn't have a year this year and it's just a wide receiver three or on his own team, then you're looking at shit $120 on a 3-year contract again, moving forward, and that gets real expensive real quick. That puts you in the Marshall, Rondale Moore kind of type players that shit, man, you don't want to extend those contracts. But in
Yeah.
BC, you have to. In the other, 16 team contract leagues, that becomes a little bit different conversation. So I think he can have a productive year. He's not going to be, you know, top 48 in the league, but I think if the price is right, he wouldn't be a bad addition. So,
Yeah.
uh, we'll move on to the third one on my list. Good old CM squared. I picked him up pretty expensive in one contract league auction. I think he went for $330, Mr. Christian McCaffrey.
That doesn't
Uh,
sound buy low to me.
no, but he could easily be a top three running back in the league this year, without a doubt, if he's healthy. There's no question in my mind that he's still at 28, 29 years old. Like he can still be uber productive. Um, the only concern I have with him is, are they going to continue to utilize him at 20 to 25 carries a game and, 30 touches and early in the season? I mean, they have Garendo behind him, who I think is going to, help burden that load a little bit. They drafted the rookie, what is it, Jordan James. I don't have any pieces of him, and it wasn't on my radar. But um, I could see them kind of just decreasing his workload, knowing that he needs to be ready for the playoffs. And by all accounts, San Francisco should be. I think their over under is 10.5 wins, which I just don't understand it. But the only other thing is like they're down Brandon Ayuk. Their what primary receivers are Kittle and Juwan Johnson or Juwan Jennings. Like they're going to have to throw the ball out of the backfield, and you know that that's probably the way they want him to get touches. And I think if he can have
They got
75
Ricky
catches,
Pearsall, and I saw
Pearsall, yeah,
they signed Demarcus Robinson. He's like had like 5 highlight reel catches today. I saw. So
that's a good
parties.
name. That's a good name to think about.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I
I'm a
think
CM
Pearsall's
squared.
going to be good.
I'm a Christian McCaffrey truther. So if I can get him in any leagues, I'm gonna take one more ride on him. The problem that I'll have is if I sign him to a 1 year deal out of the auction, then it becomes, oh shit, do you franchise tag him if he has a top
Average
12
year.
year? Yeah,
Yeah.
top 15 year, because my
I
thought
think in
is
order for him to be a buy low, he has to be the number 1 overall. He's still going in like, I don't know, like in a redraft league, he's still going in the first round.
yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say with him is that like I don't doubt that he can finish in the top 2 or 3 in the running back position. I just wouldn't forget about him.
That's fair.
Yeah, and if you're chasing a championship and um, have money to spend, I think McCaffrey is as good as bet as any. I mean, can McCaffrey outperform Barkley this year?
Yeah.
I think so, and I don't think a lot of people are drafting him over Barkley anymore, and that was definitely the case last year.
No, I mean, I don't think you should either. Just because you can doesn't mean you will.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
we will see, but I like his chances. I think if anybody's going to be in shape and ready to go and ready to go to battle, I think Christian will figure it out. Got two more. Chris Godwin, 29-year-old Chris Godwin, coming off the leg injury. Kind of, I think it was game 8 last year. Um, they drafted Mbuka. They obviously have Mr. Reliable Mike Evans. But for the first 7 games last year, prior to his injury, he was averaging 7 receptions for 82 yards and almost 3/4 of a touchdown. If you extrapolate that over a 17 game season, it's 112 receptions, 1,300 yards, and 11 and a half TDs. I'm sorry, I did that over 16 games. I don't know why I'm an idiot, but it's even, 119 for whatever, 1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns. That is a pretty good buy low candidate because I think, he's probably had enough time, he had 10 weeks before the regular season ended. Then he had all of the offseason and the postseason. Like, I think he should be healthy and ready to go. I'm not as concerned about Mbuka replacing his role in the offense, but I do think he can help even more by, opening the field up and having another reliable target there. And I just feel like he's a trustworthy, reliable wide receiver that I think he's got like a $375 contract in one of our leagues. Not talking about that kind of cost, but I think he's
I
got
think
a
that's like a third year of a franchise tag that gets
yeah,
frisky, but yeah.
yeah,
No, I mean the thing about Chris Godwin is like I want to like go get him where I can, Um, even though they have Jalen McMillan, who was very good last year, and they added, you know, it's just like they're stacked. And Bucky Irvin catches the ball out of the backfield well. Like, who's gonna not? Who's gonna disappoint? You know?
yeah.
And I think the answer is just gonna be like the other two receivers. I think Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are gonna eat, man. They're too
I think
good
so
at
too.
football. They're just
I
too
mean,
good.
what year of Baker Mayfield is this? This will be year 3 of him, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Tampa Bay. I think their offense is going to be pretty damn good. I,
Yep.
I I'm excited to. I would be buying shares in that offense. I think he's comfortable. He knows it's his job. Like he's not afraid to sling it. I think they can move the chains, and I think they're going to put up points. So
Team
not only
loves
Chris,
him. Like the
yeah,
players love him that play there.
yeah, and I'd look out for them a little bit. I think they could have even a better season than they did last year. So, and then I have one more. And this was kind of what I was alluding to. I have the Dallas Cowboys running backfield. I'm not sure which one as a buy low. I uh I I think it could be Miles Sanders, to be perfectly honest with you. You say his metrics are awful. I don't think Javante was fully healthy last year. I think Jaden Blue has a shot. I almost drafted him 203 and I just couldn't pull the trigger on it. But man, he looked pretty good out of the backfield and catching balls and I think their offense is going to be pretty explosive as long as they're throwing the rock and moving the chains. I think somebody's going to have a 750, 800-yard season with 6 or 7 touchdowns, unless it's just a complete committee and nobody really gets you know the first major opportunity, or they squander the opportunity when they get it. But I don't know. I wouldn't shy away from drafting one of those guys in leagues. I'm just not 100% sure who it's going to be. If I had to put my money where my mouth is, I would probably put it on Javante. You know, and if he can do something within the first 5 or 6 weeks, man, he was pretty darn good early before the injury, and I just don't see how he can just be completely washed after one injury. But um, I thought that their offensive line was better than what you suggested. I just always have thought that the Cowboys offensive line was not elite, but top 15, top 10.
Well, we just got to see what Brian Schottenheimer does. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of variance for this team. And it's kind of like if his coaching scheme's unique, it comes and it works. They can throw the ball and run the ball well. They'll probably be a very good team. If they don't have a good identity and I don't know. I don't know what they're going to run. So I think they could
How many
be.
yards do you think Rico Dowdle had last year?
He had like 987 or something like that.
1,079 on 235
That was
attempts.
close. That was
That's pretty
close.
good. He had a 4.6 yards per carry, and he caught 49 targets for another 250 yards.
I
Or
think
sorry,
Zeke
39.
had some numbers running like 3.1 yards a carry or something
But
terrible.
I guess my point is, if they let him go and they chose to sign Miles Sanders and Javante Williams and then draft Jaden Blue, like how much worse can one of them be than that?
Well, there's also a world that they really wanted to take one of those really high end running backs and didn't get it, and they're just kind of like, uh oh, I guess next year, you
Yeah.
know? Um, but I don't know. Like, here's the thing: when you go and completely put all your offensive picks into your offensive line, it's not always generally like going to put you over. Like it's just addressing and building a foundation for an issue that for the future. So like let's say by next year they have a dominant offensive line. Well, they might get rid of Dak Prescott so they can get a rookie deal quarterback, like I don't know. Maybe they'll go get Sanders and then hire Sanders and then have the Sanders show and get the reality TV show rights. I don't know.
Oh, that could be
My
bad.
point is, like, I think even if you ask Jason, he's a Cowboys fan. I don't think he really knows what to expect either. I don't
Yeah.
think he's excited about Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders. I think he would be excited if Jaden Blue ended up being the best of the three, because then you hit on a draft pick. But if Jaden Blue can't beat those two bums out, then they don't have a good running back. They just have dudes who can fall forward. But like if you want to be efficient on offense, you need to average more than 3.1 yards a carry. Just It's
But
just plain and simple.
they had the 12th pick and they took an offensive lineman, right?
But they
So
needed to. Their
okay.
offensive line was that bad.
But
Um,
if they wanted one of the stud running backs, they could have had Henderson, they could have had Hampton, they could have had Judkins, they
with
could
their
have had
second round pick, you mean?
well, that was 44. Hampton went like in the 20s.
Yeah, and they what? They went another offensive lineman, right?
And then yeah, and they went edge from Boston College, and then they went cornerback, and then they got Jaden Blue in the fifth.
Yeah.
So I mean, there were other running backs they could have
They had
drafted.
a very good draft, in my opinion. Like with what they had and what they wanted to do. To get a guy opposite of Parsons, they're rebuilding their offensive line, which absolutely had to happen because they had the best offensive line, but then it was the most expensive offensive line. And
Yeah,
then
they
it was
didn't
the most
draft
expensive
another.
hurt offensive line. Then it was the most expensive old offensive line. And then, you know,
They
and
drafted
there,
two, and they got Maffa out of Clemson too. I mean the seventh round, whatever
I
that is.
think,
But
I think, I think Maffa, unless he has a really like good camp and they have to keep him over like Miles Sanders. They gave Javante and Miles Sanders kind of too much money just to cut in a weird way. I mean, you could always cut somebody, but I didn't understand either of those signings. I hated them both for them. But if they waive Maffa, Maffa's going to end up on another team, and Maffa might win like a backup job with another team because he's
yeah,
big. Like he's a big back, like tall and strong. So if you're asking me right now who I would rather have running the rock right now, if you want to get 3 point fucking 8 yards a carry, it's probably Marfa. He's big enough to just like hit a hole, fall through, and get 4 yards every time. I don't know how talented he is, but if that's like what do they have? I mean, I guess Javante can catch balls at the backfield.
he can do all three
Sanders,
things.
I think like Sanders, I believe like I'll next pod I will like try and pull how bad his decline over the last 3 years was Miles Sanders. Like
Yeah.
it's just something that can't even be put into words how bad he got.
All right. Well, I'll look forward to hearing that. I am going on record as saying I think Javante Williams will have a bounce back year and put up some decent fantasy stats. And I could be wrong, but you know what? You got to take your shots.
I
So
listened to Denver beat writers for 2 years talk about how declining and washed he was, so he still could do stuff. So that's kind of all they maybe need, but I'm not. I don't think Javante is the answer.
all right. Fair enough. Those are my five buy low candidates on the offensive side of the football because I do not know IDP as well as Mr. Jesus does. So,
You'll know all the
uh,
guys I'm going to talk about if we're talking about bounce.
well, I'll be able to add a little color, but I don't go that deep. All right, buddy, take it away. I'm gonna go grab a quick water. Go ahead and start talking, and I'll be right back in 32 seconds or less.
Don't mind carrying the pod while you're gone, Corey. It's okay. Corey and Corey, I see on the bottom. I think we're on the same account. Um, so we got a few segments coming up, so there's a lot of people that can go under like buy low, and buy low can mean a lot of things. I tried to take it into context of somebody who's been in the league a long time that people are kind of sleeping on or not giving enough respect to, not really like new up and comers that are going to have breakout seasons. So my first one's Trey Hendrickson because defensive end for Cincinnati because he has this weird holdout going on. The stalemate's not going to matter. They're going to figure it out. He's just going to play. He's not the kind of guy who's just going to hold out. And he's carried that defense for years. His sack numbers are so consistent, and I'm seeing him being given away for like DN 2 3 value, which is just crazy. And I'm seeing him like drafted like in IDP leagues. He's going like or value in auctions. He's like I don't know the 12th or 13th most taken D end. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, he's a top five guy with top five talent. And let's just see, even if he like got traded or moved on from Cincinnati, he's still going to be amazing, right? Like high volume, high pressure rate. He get and like and you think about it, like he's getting back at the cornerback constantly with like a terrible secondary, terrible linebackers, terrible everything, no help on that line. They finally got him another D end and they like try to give him some shady contracts. So he'll play, he'll get his same numbers he did before. And this might actually, if they don't give him extension, he might be better. Like if he's trying out for his next team and his next like extension deal contract, he's gonna ball out this year. I think he's gonna be really good. I couldn't get him anywhere because I thought I tried a few places. It just felt like people were too high on. But I've seen him get moved for like peanuts, man. Like as like people trying to kind of get off an expensive D end, like he's because he's being paid top 10 contract wise in these leagues. People are trying to like get rid of that contract, and I just don't understand it. So that's my number one. My number two is a really interesting one, and it sucks I don't have any more of him, and I couldn't get any of them. But I think Josh Sweat for the Arizona Cardinals is gonna have a crazy breakout year, and the reason is he's still 28 and his best years were with Gannon at the Eagles. And when Gannon left and they adjusted their defensive formations and the way they chose to attack, like he kind of regressed a little. He just wasn't as dominant as he was for those early Eagles days where he's getting 12 sacks and pushing that top 10 conversation as a dynasty D end. I think he had a really high value like 2-3 years ago. But now he's going into that same scheme style, an actual 4-3 D end. He's gonna play a ton. They paid him a shitload of money. I mean, he gave him a 4-year deal for like top end D end money. So he's gonna play a lot, and I got him in a startup for like nothing. Like I am telling you, like nothing. Like I think I paid $3 or $4 for him in these with $1,000, right? Like he's not on people's radar right now, and he probably needs to get back on his radar. I think people just think he declined and the Eagles don't want him anymore. But the Eagles have been drafting backups, and the Eagles sure as hell weren't paying 4 years, 120 million or whatever the hell he got. It wasn't that high, but he got a big bag. So I like Josh Sweat this year. I think I like a lot of that defense being, there's some pieces on that Arizona defense that are going to be really good, and it's kind of all buy low, but that was the one that really stood out.
Like it.
Another guy who's free right now, I've got him for free in a couple auctions, which I was stoked on, is Malcolm Kuntz for the Las Vegas Raiders, the D end. So he got hurt early last year and missed the whole year, and he had 8 sacks the year before, but I think he had like a crazy amount of pressure. So he was kind of the player who was gonna regress to the means in a positive direction. So he could have got to 10 or 11 sacks if he continued his pressure rates. And I know when they were considering on whether or not they should bring him back, that Max Crosby pounded the table for him. So he's gonna start opposite. I think they tried Tyree, and I think he's just a situational guy. I don't think he's a starter. I don't think you can put bulk in there. So I think Kuntz could have a 8, 9, 10 sack season again, and he's a good tackler, so he gets a good base of tackles. So he scores, he gets you 150 points. I think he had 180 2 years ago. So like if you get that out of a guy who's costing you nothing at the end, I mean that's pretty nice, you know. Um my next guy, I got a lot of DNs here because most of my linebackers are in the next segment, but Khalil Mack again, still free. Still free, still putting up 200 points every fucking year. He had a couple, like an injured year or like a couple down years where he was hurt. But the last 2 years, he's been like, he was a league winner for me in one league 2 years ago. And like, he was great last year. And he's their guy, you know? And also the way they run that defense, you know, Harbaugh's style, it's exactly his bread and butter. Like he's just gonna eat, man. Again, nobody wants him. Khalil Mack, you know, he's the minimum. Probably get him for a DN 50, 60 price. You know, probably finish DN 15. You know, um, it's like those old guys that people don't want, but like at some point you just can't let them
I think he went for like what, 80 something dollars in CK, or
this
one of
year.
the, yeah, I'd have to pull it up.
Um, I don't
Uh
think he did. If he did, I would
he
be
wasn't
blown away.
cheap. He was not cheap. I'll have to go back and look. Go ahead and go on, and I'll pull that information up. But he just, you think he's like, 97 years old by the way people treat him, and it's like he just continues to produce. Like, obviously I'm a Bears fan and still don't understand why we got rid of him in the first place, but um yeah, I like that pick. I think, he's a dog. He goes out there and performs every year. So yeah, I
Yeah,
like
for
that.
sure. Yeah, so my last one, he's not like criminally low, but I think he is still too low. And that's Frankie Louvu for the
Mm,
Washington Commanders. And I think a lot of people put him in the same category as Bobby Wagner, as a guy who's like really old and kind of maybe declining.
hmm
But the thing about Frankie Lou is he has a certain style of defense that he thrives on, and it's allowing him to get sideline to sideline and be very aggressive, and using him aggressively on the line and using him aggressively to get to the quarterback. And so he was that when he broke out in Carolina, and he had two monster years. And then they got a new D coordinator who just wasn't using him correctly. So he kind of declined. And then I think everyone was just like, he's kind of done, you know. They're not going to extend him. Washington got him pretty cheap considering, but on a multi year deal. And, now, like last year, he put up awesome numbers, but I think people need to remember how good he was in the playoffs. Like in the playoffs, he started really getting in, like feeling into his zone. I think he was putting up probably like 40-point games in the playoffs. Now, granted, we're not playing fantasy at that point, but he was really good. And he's just a guy who has one speed and it's just like as fast and crazy as he can go. And as long as he's not putting you in these liability situations, which is like why you got to play him correctly, and they play him correctly, and so I think he can go over 200 points very easily this year. And if he does, again, I've seen him in auctions go as like an LB2 type, not really taking much consideration as being like an elite middle linebacker, but he's not a middle linebacker. He's kind of a hybrid, but he can get you 8 sacks in a year, man. That's old Darius Leonard shit, And that's when you get some really elite numbers. If you can get 130 tackles and 8 sacks in a year, uh, you're doing God's work.
Yeah.
So I could see him finishing top five, top 10 maybe, and I don't think he's some values he's that high because if guys had him and they keep him, but everywhere I've seen in startups and I've seen some trades, it doesn't seem like people respect him as like an elite asset, and I think he is one. At least right now, until you know something else happens.
Uh, Great choice. I just thought he was getting kind of slow and just older and just kind of played older than he actually was when he was in Carolina. But he did, like, I sold him before last year in a couple leagues, and you know, I think that's a great pick. Just to clarify, Mac went for $33, so I was half the price. So that's a value,
It's
according to
still
what I was thinking.
actually much more than I thought he would go for. So maybe he's not as undervalued as I thought. I got him 2 years ago for $1 in that
And
in
yeah,
a league, which was
he
ridiculous.
he also only had 125 points last year in fantasy. The year before that, he had 275. So
Yeah,
he
but he was
wasn't
hurt this
dominant
year.
last year.
He was hurt. He was hurt last year. He missed like
I think
six
he
games
missed.
last year.
Yeah, I'm trying to see it. He only actually missed 2 games last year. No, I'm sorry, that was 2023. Last year he missed 2 games, unless he got hurt in a couple of the other ones. But yeah, I mean, I think
Interesting.
if you get between 123 and 175 points at $33 value, I think that's still pretty good.
Khalil
So
Mack can still get 4 sacks in a game. That's all you need to know.
he can win you a week for sure.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
and before we move on to the next segment, which is the top five risk versus reward, I am very insecure, and I'm also very cocky, according to everybody out there. So the Dallas Cowboys, according to PFF, had the sixth ranked offensive line last year.
Last year?
Yeah, 2024. I just pulled it up.
Okay. How many of those
Uh,
guys still play on their offensive line? One retired. They lost one to free agency. Uh,
and they drafted
and
one.
uh, for running or in general, I got to look at that. I
Yeah, I'm pulling it
ask
up.
any Cowboys fan if they think their offensive line was top six
I guess all I'm
last year.
saying is they're at least a top 12, 15 line in the league. Maybe I'm wrong. I knew that they weren't bad last year if Rico Dowdle rushed for 1,000 yards. So I don't know. Anywho,
They
I
didn't
knew I
have
wasn't
Dak.
that far off because I
They
am.
didn't have Dak.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point too.
That's
But
why he rushed for
I
a
think
thousand
I
yards.
think that almost hurts a running game sometimes when you're relying on a shit backup quarterback that can just you know you can dare him to throw the ball a little bit. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm still holding my ground on Javante Williams. Top five risk versus reward. You get the concept. We'll start it off with James Cook. We kind of talked about him a little bit earlier because of the contract issues. I don't think they're going to extend him this season. Um, something's going on there, and it would make me very nervous him being in a different offense. I think he's a slight frame. I wasn't super sold on him being Dalvin when he came into the league. Obviously, he had an amazing season last year. I just don't think they're all that interested in spending top dollar, top five running back value for him. I think Ty Johnson and Ray Davis are, Ty Johnson's a pretty decent third down running back. And I think Ray Davis is a kind of a decent 1-2 punch. So I will say he's going to regress down to probably 80% of what he produced last year if he doesn't hold out and he plays. We'll see. Maybe they utilize him and they know they're going to get rid of him and not re-sign him and he tests free agency. So he, risk reward. You can draft him high and hope that he keeps form, or he could be on another team next year and not be as elite as he was last year. And so that's why I have him kind of number one on my list.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, you don't know what it's going to happen with his contract, what he's going to do next year. And anytime somebody, especially when it's a running back, is trying to pull some leverage shit, that's like, do you know what year it is, man? Like, just go play and get paid, you know?
Yeah. I mean, he'll definitely get paid. I don't know what he looks like in a different system, and with the threat of Allen running the football and catching passes in kind of a wide open, explosive offense. So
Could be held back there. I mean, you don't. Who knows?
like, he had an absurd amount of touchdowns last year. I think it was like 17 or something like that. I mean, that's just I just don't see him getting to that level again.
I would take the under on 17. That's for sure.
Yeah. Uh, the next one on my list is Kyron Williams. I kind of have a running back theme to start this off. I liked him coming out. Like I wish I would have picked up some more pieces with him. He had a pretty low draft capital. The Rams have drafted in back-to-back years running backs. They got Corum out of Michigan, and then they got Jaquez Hunter this year. He's also in a contract year. He's got no extension as of yet. It depends on kind of what they do. I think in the start of the season this year, and how Stafford looks like. The Rams should be pretty damn good if Stafford's healthy. He's overperformed, obviously, his draft capital. I think he's going to have a reduced workload this year, without a doubt. I don't think you draft running backs in back-to-back years with decent capital to, not try to kind of mix it up a little bit and have kind of more of a 1, 2, 3 punch. So I just, for where he's going in drafts and if I were, a savvy owner, I mean, what could you get? Like, what's a fair trade for Kyron Williams? I mean, you're going to get a first and a second easily, in BC, probably a pretty decent mid first if you play your cards right. I'm not a longtime believer in him. I think in a different offense, he's not going to be the same type of player. I don't think he's really, I'd put him on the same kind of level as Chase Brown. And I'm a little bit weary of those guys. Like Chase Brown could have an exceptional year this year, but they certainly weren't planning on that last year. Kyron's had a little bit more a better body of work, but if I had him and owned him, I would be trying to sell him this year and get as much as possible at top end value, and I'd be moving on.
Yeah, McVay's system. I mean, his backs never last for whatever reason. Maybe he gets bored. I don't know what happens, but eventually he just kind of feels like he needs to move on. Jaquez Hunter is like he is exactly who Kyron Williams is. Like they're the same person. So, but younger. So, to your point, would he just drive Kyron Williams into the ground and then get value for him? Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what he's done. How successful have these running backs been going from the Rams to another organization? Pretty bad. Like the track record is not good. So, if you want to do that type of math, I agree with you. I do believe in anyone playing for this year, they would be willing to give up a lot for Kyron Williams because they
I
will
agree.
give volume. They will give volume to that running back. And it's worth the risk that he doesn't get his volume replaced this year. If he got hurt, maybe he couldn't get his job back if, you know, Hunter was better. I think Blake Corum's probably not the guy. He had a lot of opportunity and he just really did next to zero with it. But I think, yeah, I think Hunter can be frisky. But, or, you never know. If he has another great year and they don't like Hunter, they're going to go back to the well and get another running back until they
He
have to
had
replace him.
he had 316 rushing attempts last year.
Yeah,
316.
that's what they do. But also, he had that many, man, because, they did not have a backup worth of shit. They just didn't.
Yeah.
And if you can't do everything you have to do, I mean, McVay's not going to put you in there, man.
Yeah, if Corum can't pass protect Stafford, it's they can't
I heard
afford
it
to
was
get
pretty
hurt.
bad.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so that's my second on my list. I just don't think he gets the same volume, and I think there's some regression. He also had 14 TDs last year, which I think you can get 10 to 12 pretty easily, but 14's a lot.
I think you get 14 again if he has the same volume. Like I said, I mean, we just got to see. McVay's a psycho with running backs and giving them volume.
Next on my list is James fucking Conner. I don't think I've ever owned him in a single league anywhere by choice, unless I picked him up off the waiver wire or some stupid shit like in a crap league. But I was never a believer when he moved to Arizona. But he has back-to-back 1,000-yard years with over 35 receptions. Is he getting older? Yes. They drafted Marshawn Lloyd, which we will talk about in the trade later. But prior to that, he didn't have the previous 3 years. He never eclipsed 1,000 yards. He was always
You
around the
mean
seven.
you mean Benson, right? Are you talking about last year or
Oh,
this
I'm
year?
sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Trey Benson. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I mean, they spent capital on him. So I don't think I would be giving up on Benson at all. But regardless, previous to that, he was hovering around 750 yards for the previous 3 seasons. I mean, he was just an absolute freaking machine the last 2 seasons, like just running with power, catching the ball out of the backfield. His receptions had kind of increased. Like, I think Arizona's offense.
I think his goal line numbers are like tops too.
Yeah,
I
he's
think he's
just
been a really
if he
good goal
stays
line back.
healthy, I could just see him. It can go either way. At some point, he just was the style of running that he has. I just feel like he was going to break down, and I just didn't want to touch him. But I think he went for like $225 in an auction or something like that recently in one of our 16 team leagues. Like, man, that's I mean that's a steep price, but
I
like,
I gambled on him the last few years, and that was
yeah,
nice.
and he paid you, like, and I think
Mm.
that's kind of the point. Like he's,
He's Mando's headache now,
yeah,
or treasure. We're gonna find out.
yeah, he's definitely not a buy candidate for me. But if I had, you know,
He's
a
getting points unless he gets a
need at a running back,
ACL tear. He's gonna get points. Will
I
his
agree.
workload get reduced? Possibly. Can Trey Benson take over the workload? Like maybe not the goal line work right now, maybe not some specific third down work, but could they do like 60-40? Could it even get to 50-50? I mean, yeah, I mean, they paid a lot for him and he's talented and he's
Just
a
in
little nicked up.
comparison,
See,
he only had 236 attempts compared to freaking Williams's 301. Like, that's just insane. Williams
yeah,
had 80 more touches than him last year, 70. Like, that's just
volume.
ridiculous. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, he's kind of like my Mike Evans of, well, I wouldn't put him on Mike Evans, but the last couple of years, it's like I was scared to have Evans on my team, and I just felt like there had to be at some point where he fell off the cliff, and man, he's been pretty good the last couple of years. So if you have him on your team, I'd ride him into the ground and maybe back him up with Jensen.
I think Connor's has another good year left of him, just like Williams. But if you're ready to get off of the player, for me it was like, okay, we're in super pot. I didn't know if I was contending at the time, so I pitched him out and got some value for him. Got some decent value for him too.
The last one on my list is none other than Dalton Kincaid. Uh, Interesting, right? And I
What
mean,
a
obviously
conundrum.
they spent a lot of draft capital on him. I mean, his rookie season, like
He was amazing his
he
rookie
had
year.
73 receptions and 672 yards as a rookie. Like you think that Gabe Davis is going to leave, and I mean, other, with Diggs left, right? Like, I mean, you think that he's going to. I mean, you think his year two is going to be pretty good. That he's going to take the next step forward. He missed 4 games. He regressed. Like, I think he had like 30 receptions, 35 in year.
If somebody told me that Dalton Kincaid developed a strip club addiction similar to James Harden, I would probably make sense to what's happening with him because I don't know what else does.
He
He
had
went from
44 receptions last year.
Dude, but he also went from like an elite like possession, inline tight end. I mean, he looked awesome, and now it looks like they're forcing it to him. and that
Yeah,
he's not as open, and he's not like he doesn't he looks like a totally different player, and I don't understand what happened. I have no idea if he's got back problems or something in the spine that's not coming out. I don't know, man, but he looks like he's something happened to him, and maybe I don't know, maybe he had a bunch of injuries, and maybe he's going to get healthy and do it again. But I agree, like I mean, if he gets back to rookie form, even if it was just his rookie year, he'd be like an insane value right now.
I
You
agree.
know, I think people are paying for him and maybe drafting him like hoping he can be, but he's certainly not top five, and he's not. You know, he is like that exact upside guy. You're like just like I'll take a
Well,
flyer on him and hope he can get good again.
they trusted. Well, first of all, the Bills ran the ball more last year than they've done in the previous years, right? Like Josh Allen, they just won the game by running the football, using Cook, using screen passes and things of that nature. They just didn't air it out as much as they did, and they trusted Dawson Knox more. Like if you look at their depth chart right now, Dawson Knox is listed ahead of freaking Dalton Kincaid on the
Because he
depth chart,
runs better routes.
right?
It's it. He runs better routes, man. He's like good, gets open in the end zone. Like I don't know what happened to Kincaid. He's a fucking brick shithouse, but he doesn't
Yeah.
play like one anymore. Now again, if he's like injuries and he comes back, but like think about it. Like last year, everyone's like, okay, well, he's the number one. Stephon Diggs is gone. They didn't bring anyone else in.
Who are the other targets?
He's gonna
Khalil
get 100
Shakir?
catch. He's gonna get 100 catches, and then it's like 40, and you're like, what the fuck is
And,
happening
and,
here?
and what's even more boggling is he only has 6 career touchdowns. Like you put him in the slot and you can't match up against a
But
linebacker across the
again,
middle, and like
that's like Dawson Knox's fault.
because yeah.
Dawson Knox is a beast in the red zone, or like in 10 yard line and in. He knows how to get to the exact spot to get a touchdown. How many
Yeah.
did Dawson Knox have last year? Last 2 years?
I don't know, but I know he went through the family issue. I think his brother died or something like that, and I
Mm.
know they loved him, and like he's just like kind of a team favorite kind of dude.
It was just
Uh,
last year that he had a bunch.
I'd have to pull it up quick. I didn't do it my Dawson Knox research, but
Yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry, I put you on the spot. That's okay.
no, it's okay. I like it. Yeah, I don't know. Let me see here real quick. Probably not as many as you
This
think.
I
this
mean,
is Jess. She needs her money to work as hard as she
He
does.
had 0
That's why she
touchdowns
uses
last year.
U.S. Bank Smart
No, so those are
Protect.
rushing. I'm
Tell her
sorry.
her tracker's ready.
He had one
Corey, we can
touchdown.
hear your commercial.
That's the power of Jess.
Sorry, that's ESPN trying to give us free promotional content.
Trying to get us banned on YouTube.
Yeah, okay. He had one touchdown last year, Ben. So I mean,
Oh,
there's
Dawson
no,
Knox it?
yeah, there's no
Maybe it was the
explanation why
playoffs.
Dalton Kincaid has 6 career touchdowns to me. I don't understand it. So I
Huh.
think that'll improve this year. I think Dalton Knox is a risk reward, but also the reason why he's a risk reward more is because of the
Dalton
contract.
Knox? We get them both at the same time? Combined stats?
Maybe. The reason why I think he's a risk reward is again, it's the contract. He's year 3, so you have to extend him. He's probably a top 10 pick in most leagues. I think Candy took him like 10th overall in BC, which makes him like a $72 player right now. And so you have to extend him. You got to extend him and you're going to do it. Like if he puts up 50 receptions, I mean, because the tight end position, if you try to find one in auction, is
On
going to
the
be
upside
130
alone,
bucks.
you have to extend him. It's a
But
brutal extend, but yeah.
he's also kind of a buy low candidate overall. I think he could have a better season, and I wouldn't be. I put my chips into the pot on him doing that. So I did have one more. I'm gonna skim through this one pretty quick. I have some pretty decent stats, and that's good old DK Metcalf. So the reason why there's no legit number two in 2022, Adams, Aaron Rodgers' number one receiver, had 100 catches, 1,500 yards, and 14 TDs. And even last year, Garrett Wilson had 101 catches, 1,100 yards, and 7 TDs. And they were never really on the same page.
Ever.
I think who else are they going to throw the freaking ball to? I
Dude,
just
I saw Calvin Austin the third. Calvin Watkins? Austin? No, it's Calvin
Austin, yeah,
Austin.
Calvin
Calvin
Austin
Austin the third. He's like got a lock on the second wide receiver two right now
over Roman Wilson.
over everyone. Like it's like he's that much better than everyone else, and he's not that good.
Well,
I
I
got him
heard
like
that Gabe Davis was making a visit to old Pittsburgh. So I mean, like even like,
trying to sell those Gabe Davis shares still.
but they need to. They're going to bring in somebody else. Like there's just no way that this is who they go to
It's
camp with.
Tomlin. He doesn't give a shit.
Well, they're going to be running the football, and
A lot.
it could go really bad really quick if DJ or DK starts throwing his antics on the sidelines and he's not getting targeted and he's never been like a polished receiver, but like fuck, like he's a big ass dude. You throw it to him deep, you can get it to him on quick stuff. Like I don't know, I could just see him going either way. Like it could get bad real quick, or he could have
Yeah.
a career year. So
Well,
I would.
I think Johnson and Warren will both provide great return. Their offensive line got better. I think they will be able to run the ball,
Play action,
and
DK.
Metcalf is the play action guy.
Yeah, yeah,
Just like give me one on one, I'll burn him down the sidelines, 60 yards, 50 yards. So he he could have a great season, man.
yeah.
I agree.
All right, those were my risk reward top 5 players, and we're gonna move on to Ben's IDP picks.
Okay. I got risk reward guys. These most of these guys are kind of I don't know more about like what they could be and what their upside is because they're getting new roles or they have doors to new roles. And but there's like the sample size is basically what we've seen at the end of previous seasons, right? So the first one's Elijah McGuire from Cleveland. He's a defensive end opposite of uh, Garrett, and they got Graham for the middle. So now you got some heavier pass rushing chops in there. I think he's gonna do really well this year. I think he's gonna have a breakout because I think they played a lot of right last year and he was really bad. And I think they had to get in what's his name? Smith, Zadarius Smith, and he wasn't really doing it. I think when they leaned on at the end of the year, Isaiah McGuire, I think he like really did well, and I think they believe in him now. So I think he's gonna have a chance to get like a lot of snaps, like 70% snap guy. He'll get single teamed almost every time. With Garrett, like half the team trying to block Garrett. So I like him because he's again like he's a guy that people don't you probably can't get him like dirt cheap, right? Because people feel like he has potential, but you're not going to pay a lot for him, and he has the potential to be like a breakout guy you could get a great contract on for a long time, right? And I saw him go. Not expensive. I don't even know if I was able to get any shares of him, but I like him. I'm most intrigued. I don't know if I like him, but I'm most intrigued by your defensive end, Deo
Oh, the bingo.
Adeyingbo. Yeah. So he's like on the Colts. He was this crazy ass wild card that reminded me like a little bit of like like kind of like Frankie Louvu, where he's just like he almost has no control. He's just like chopper sick balls, like and you're like Jesus, like what is that guy doing? But like when it works, he like murders people. You're just like Jesus, who was that? Oh, it's and so what intrigues me most is how much money you guys gave him. You gave him a 3-year, $48 million deal, and it's backloaded to where the cap hit this year and next year are like crazy high. So you almost can't cut him this year or next year. Some guys get 2 years, and then the second year is like $1.5 million cap hit, so it's not going to kill you if you have to cut him. But he's 3 years, and he's a big hit again. On the cap. Yeah, I think it's 12 million each of those years that he would take a hit on the cap if you cut him in the first 2 years. Then it drops to like 4.5. It's not cheap either. So clearly, you want to play him a lot, and I think you want him to be opposite of Sweat and maybe hybrid him a little as more of an outside linebacker type that kind of goes to edge.
Downhill, yeah.
But like I just think when an organization pays that much money for a guy, they have a really set role that they want him to do. And so I think the risk is there because I got him super cheap in the startup. I think I got about like $3 or something. Man, people aren't on him, but like you have to be on guys that get paid that much money. Even if they you look at their stats and like he wasn't a stat monster, for the Colts because he didn't play any of those juicy roles, you know. But I think he could be a real surprise for you guys. And then if they use him correctly, like I said, he's an animal. So he's always trying to be around the ball. If he can get 100, a good snap count, he could get a lot of tackles, get in the backfield. He can get sacks. So I think he's frisky. The next guy I have is Jalen Carley's for the Indianapolis Colts because I don't know how good Jalen Carley's is per se, but EJ Speed's role in that defense is 100% snaps, and it's a lot of volume around the balls and involves run stopping, and it involves a lot of tackles. So Franklin's still there, but the number 2 guy is always going to eat, and they don't really have anyone else as good as him, I don't think. And his training camp so far, hype is up there. The coaches are talking he's the next guy up. Everything that's being told to us is that he's the guy. So the downside is if he's not the guy, then you're in trouble, right? But if he is the guy and he's getting EJ Speed's role, you're looking at a guy who's going to get you 120 tackles, 100,
Well, they have Zaire Franklin, right, as their number 1.
He's the number 1, but it's like him and EJ Speed would almost get the same tackles every year, every game.
Yeah, for me, that's why I went after him in BC. Like I spent a first round and I got a couple other picks back, but I'm like for a $6 linebacker, like that's on a second year of his rookie contract. Like if he gets 150 and 175 points this year, I just struck gold.
I stole him off of a taxi squad back in like March. I just had a feeling like as soon as EJ Speed signed with Houston, and for not a lot of money, I was like, they must absolutely to not match the amount of money that they gave EJ Speed. I was like, they must believe in this guy. Like they're not going to draft another guy because you wouldn't draft another guy if you can just pay a guy.
The only concern with him that I've read is just his ability to hold up like with the workload, right? Like he's a smaller frame, like
maybe.
He's explosive.
They said the same thing about Speed, though. So you never know. Like these guys are animals. They want to get in there, they'll get in there. And I think if it doesn't work out, you could probably look at them. I don't think they have any UDFA linebackers that are that interesting. Like I think they would draft somebody next year. I don't know if it was a dumpster fire. Maybe it's a Kaiser White like destination. Yep. Where they're like, we bet wrong, go pay Kaiser White $4 million and stick him in there. But I like the upside there,
Well, I appreciate that. I think it's a perfect risk reward, right? It's like, especially for the contract, it's like, to me, it was if I'm trying to repeat and or at least make the playoffs and collect some cash, like you got to find some cheap players that could pay 4-to-1 value on your on the dollars you're spending, and like he to me was the best option. I tried to go out and get Zach Bond, and the price was too high. So I ended up getting a safety. I think the kid from Iowa, Sebastian Castro, and I got my cornerback. And so, yeah, I gave up a first round pick, but at the end of the day, like I filled three positional needs. I think if Will Johnson's going to play, so that's, I mean, who cares? He's a cornerback, but if I can get 6, 7 points a game and he can get 5 or 6 picks, like that's pretty good. And then Castro, I think, is in line to, after Fitzpatrick left, I think he's in line to have a chance to start or at least compete and do that. I watched him play
We'll
a lot
talk
at
about
Iowa.
that one later, Corey.
Okay, all
You
right.
were already tooting your horn too early, but
No,
I
I'm not
will
tooting my
say,
horn. I'm just explaining why I made the deal. Like it's, I could
yeah,
be
yeah.
completely wrong on all three players, but like again, that was just the first that was thrown into the deal.
Well,
So it was,
I'm surprised. Like, I thought, I really thought that Carly's was going to be a guy could get cheap everywhere, but his momentum hype went too fast. And so, like, and it probably didn't help that I, like, activate him off of a fucking taxi squad. Now everyone who plays in all these leagues with me is like, oh, what's Ben up to? See
I
who
gotta be
this guy
honest.
is.
I didn't see that. What I saw was, and I know you can't trust the predicted points like in MFL, but like when you're doing your research and you don't know a guy or his history, and then you start doing your research and kind of looking at depth charts and kind of what they have in store for him, and you see that he's $6. Like you have to take your shots at that stuff.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, for
it's
sure.
if he's even if he's predicted to start and score 8 points a game, like he's still worth six
I'm
dollars.
so mad that they gave him those predicted points. Like, I thought it was just going to be this sneaky linebacker. I was going to, because he was in free agent in almost all these auctions. So I was like, man, I'm going to get
Oh,
this
dude, I
guy
picked him
over.
up for like $55 in other auctions in the 16
Yeah, I was
teams.
going to say he wasn't going cheap. Like, and I was
No.
like, I got a couple shares. I'll just,
But
I'll
once
just
you
play my
start digging
gamble.
into the research and kind of like I do like his explosive kind of demeanor, and like I think he can get to the quarterback a little bit. I know he can cover. So I don't know.
You can
He's a
cover. I think
gamble
that's
for
important.
sure.
Yep. The next guy I have, I think, is less of a gamble, although I don't know if the entire IDP community is in line with me, especially not mainstream. But
Is this like a secret thing that you have to join, or do you have to like give blood, or is it like blood in, blood out to be in a
you just
secret
have to
IDP
waste
community?
ungodly amounts of time watching like content videos and looking at, I don't know, articles. And I've just looked, especially, I forget how much had happens, but during BC, especially, the best thing that ever happened is to have like all these 6 round picks that I have. Because I'll have to go like dig into, you have to go into beat writers. You have to just listen to beat writers who are like writing about teams, because the only
Yeah,
people interested in these fucking Jags are the fans, right? So like, if you want to know if they're doing well in camp or doing this, so that's what, like, that's kind of how the information just comes. Like, if you don't dig deep in the late rounds, you just don't know. You might miss other guys who are doing really
right.
well. So
Yeah.
that's like, I don't know, some of the advice, but it takes time, but whatever. That's why we do it. But Servassier Dennis is one of my favorite upside picks this year. He was really good at the end of last year. They tried to do KJ Britt. That was just a disaster. He was really bad. They tried to work some other guys in there. And then when he finally took the job over, he was very good. And that is another one, whoever's next to Levante David is also getting 10 tackles a game. They funnel everything to those two linebackers. The gap integrity is all built for those guys to make the tackles. The entire defense is built off of those guys. Those two guys, and then whoever the strong safety is, which is usually Winfield Jr. that comes in and he fills that third gap, right? Or there's that second protection. So these guys just get tackles, And they got off of White, and then they're kind of doing a carousel, but he looked very good last year. At the end, he looked good in the playoffs. And like I see some people hesitant that he might not be the starter, but I would be shocked if he's not. And if he is the starter, he's been very cheap everywhere and a little under the radar. And he's definitely going to have a big year if he gets that starting job the whole way.
Like it.
Yeah.
Good old Levante David. He
Hey man. Well, and
he's
then yeah, man, whenever Levante David slows down, he might end up with that green dot. You never know. So there's a lot of upside there, right? It's not just that other spot, but like, what if he's good enough to move on and take David's role? Then now he's just like solidified forever. So frisky little pig. This next one's like a little more of a gamble. I got him in some spots that I was super happy with, cheap. Some people were surprisingly on him, but Akeem Davis Gaither for the Arizona Cardinals. He's coming from Cincinnati as a backup, and they gave him a pretty good contract for a few years. And when Pratt went down, I think they tried to give Logan Wilson the green dot, and he couldn't handle it. So they had to give Davis Gaither the green dot, and he did well with it. So I think Gannon recognized that, and he very, very likely could be the green dot linebacker for Arizona, which means that's a three down job, And if he's been going super cheap, linebacker 40, 42, I don't know how Apex talented he is, but if Gannon thinks he can do what he needs him to do in that defense, I know need the versatility in there, and they need to be able to move a lot. I also like the rookie they drafted there, so that's a big risk, right? If he balls out, he might just play next to him. But I think that rookie would have to prove he can be the green dot guy. Because like they just kind of lost, because your White's gone, and like they don't really have anyone there. Somebody's got to win this middle linebacker job, and I think there's a good chance it can be him. And if it is, and he gets the green dot, all of a sudden he's probably a top 25 guy, right? 25 guy. So that's my risk reward players of the day for you there, Mr.
nice
Corey.
work, Mr. Jesus. To put a cap on the Chopper Sick Balls comment, if you haven't heard Steven Wilson Jr.'s version of Stand By Me, go check it out. It's one of my highlights of 2025 so far. Absolutely amazing rendition. Amazing artist. Okay, I'm going to speed through these a little bit faster. These are the top 5 to avoid with Ben's 1-inch penis at all costs. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, that is a post teaser. Jerry Jeudy, man, if you look at the production he had last year, he had averaged 5.5 receptions and 72 yards with Mr. Flacco. Without Flacco, he averaged 4 receptions and 72 yards, but that was with Winston in 7 of those games. Okay.
Ooh,
what do those two guys do?
legs.
What do those two guys do? They throw the freaking ball. I don't think there's any chance in the world that they're gonna, either Flacco's gonna finish the season, right? So then you're either going to Kenny Pickett or one of the rookies. I think he is going to have a dismal year. I think they're going to run the football. The only thing that's going to save them if they're just completely, and their defense is good, so they're probably going to try to stay in low scoring games and control the football and win, 16-13 or something like that. And I just, without him having Winston and Flacco to throw the ball and just be with reckless abandon, I just don't see him putting up any stats this year. So completely down on Jerry Jeudy. Wouldn't touch him with Ben's 1.5-inch penis. Seattle Seahawks running backs. So over the last couple seasons, Kenneth Walker has missed. No, I'm sorry. Over the last 3 seasons, Kenneth Walker has missed 10 games. Okay, that's not good. His touches have decreased every season. You got to question the quarterback play with Sam Darnold. I mean, he was okay in Minnesota, got a pretty good contract. I just don't think he's going to have the same amount of success in Seattle as he did in Minnesota. I could be wrong. Um,
I think it's funny throwing for 4,000 yards is okay now.
it's
Go
just hard
ahead.
to get the taste out of the mouth after in the games that counted. I mean, he just looked
Doesn't
like
matter if you're talking
absolute dog
fantasy,
shit.
dude.
Yeah, I hear you, but he doesn't. I mean, he had Justin Jefferson. I think he had the QB whisperer in your coach.
I don't
I think
disagree
there's
with those statements, but
I think he's going to have uh, a less than stellar year. His yards per carry have decreased in every season, and they also have Charbonnet and they drafted Martinez. So I don't like any of their running backs. I think Kenneth Walker is not a top 18 running back this year. I just threw that number out there. I don't know why I pulled it out of my head, but I just don't see him ever returning the value that he was originally drafted at. Um,
I think
Stephon Diggs. Oh,
just
go
real
ahead.
quick, I think Charbonnet at the right price is profitable, and
I
I
would take Charbonnet at the right
because the
price.
Charbonnet was very good when Walker was hurt, but then when they both played, it was bad. Both of them were kind of bad, but like when Walker was hurt, like Charbonnet had some big games when he got the volume.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of why they're all on this list lumped together. I just don't know who it's going to be, and if it is Kenneth Walker, I just don't have any confidence that he's going to have, a productive year at his cost. And so then it's just like, okay, who else is it going to be? Is it going to be Charbonnet? Is it going to be Martinez? I don't like the situation for any of their running backs, and I just don't like Seattle's outlook as an offense in general this year. So I could be completely wrong, but he's the Seahawks are second on my list. Third, I have Stephon Diggs. Yeah, just not a great start.
Did you see his new what he hit the headlines for recently? Like today,
I didn't.
he broke up with who's he with? Not Nicki. Is it Nicki
Cardi B.
Minaj? Cardi
Cardi
B.
B.
Sorry,
Yeah.
broke up with Cardi B because said her ass smells like a fucking dumpster, and it's the most disgusting thing he ever smelled in his life.
Hmm. I'm not going to touch that with your penis either.
Steffi
But
Diggs, man, what a dirtbag.
Steffi be digging in the wrong holes, man. With his nose, apparently. Uh,
It's a professional player.
yeah. I just 30, almost 30 years old. I don't like the guy. I don't think his head's screwed on straight. I don't think he's gonna mesh well. They got younger receivers there. He went for more money than I think Pickens and Flowers in one of our leagues, and I'm like, there's zero chance, zero chance.
Well, I'm not. I got to call you out on the zero chance,
Okay, there is a chance. I'm just not touching that
but
chance.
I agree that the it's bleak. I think it's
He's
so
also
bleak.
hurt. He's not even. He's not. I mean,
He's not even healthy yet.
He's on.
I think it's so bleak that I bet somebody that Adam Thielen would catch more yards than Stephon Diggs this year.
That's a
The
great
two
bet.
the two former Vikings, because
Yeah,
I mentioned that I was like Adam Thielen might be better at this point. He's like Adam Thielen sucks. He's probably not even playing football. I'm like Adam Thielen's numbers last year.
you,
Talk about
you,
somebody. Let's talk about somebody. Um, Kind of boom bust, Corey, or buy low.
yeah. I mean, he
There's a
just keeps
world.
doing.
Adam Thielen in the last like 8 games when he was healthy and Bryce Young were healthy, he was very good.
Yeah, you know
He,
what Adam Thielen's not doing? Burying his nose in Cardi B's ass and handing out coke on boats. So
I think it was
give me
MDMA, Corey. Give him
or
some
whatever.
credit.
Yeah, MDMA. No comment there either. I'm passing on Stefan Diggs all day long.
So I have two. I have no shares.
Okay, Isaiah Pacheco. These last two have something in common with this next trade.
Your
This
draft picks?
No, I do not own a single share of Isaiah Pacheco. I think
I do.
his running style is going to either get him killed or he's going to kill someone else. Um, Mahomes had the most passes behind the line of scrimmage last year. He will catch no receptions this year. He had 12 last year. KC's investing in their wide receiver core. I think they're going to start airing it out more and more. And he's missed 15 games in the last 2 seasons. I don't care if he's $24. I don't see his career lasting much more than a couple years. And that's my take.
I disagree 1,000%, and I think he's a buy low candidate.
Okay.
And I bought him low because I
Okay.
believe that.
All right. Well, if he stays healthy and, he can rush for his 3.5 yards per carry and catch 0 passes and play
He
16 games,
doesn't.
he might.
Hey man, he's better than that when he's healthy.
I'll have to pull up his career rushing yards per carry, but it's not as. If they have Kareem Hunt, who are you going to give the ball to if you need 3 yards? Are you going to give it to Kareem Hunt, or are you going to give it
A
to?
healthy Pacheco? You're giving it Pacheco.
Okay.
I don't know where all this nonsense is coming from. Just because he was hurt and now it's like he can't play.
He's been hurt 15 games out of the last 2 seasons. He's always hurt, and he's only played 2 of the 3 seasons he's been in the league. His average career in 2004, his yards per carry was 3.7.
Okay.
In the postseason, was 2.8.
Okay.
For his career, it was 4.5 because he had a good year his second season. So
when he was healthy? Ooh, shocker.
You mean the healthy season where he only missed 7 games?
Just saying.
Well, I don't know. We have a disagreement there. I won't touch Isaiah Pacheco at all costs. Mark Andrews is last on my list. The last 2 seasons, he's averaged 50 catches for 600 yards and 8.5 touchdowns. Okay, not bad. I think likely Henry, Flowers, and Bateman are all going to compete for touches in that offense. He's 29 years old, and I don't think he'll finish as a top 12 tight end. I think he's declined pretty rapidly over the last couple of years. The only thing that he has going for him is he dropped the touchdown pass in in a pivotal moment, and that might inspire him to be better. But I just don't think at his cost that he's going to have a productive season. So I am a don't touch Mark Andrews at all cost.
Okay. Where'd you go, Corey? You disappeared on us.
I don't know. My computer doesn't seem to be charging, but it's probably because I'm running it at the same time. But it just froze up a little bit there. Apologize.
Fair enough.
So those are my 5 don't touch at all costs.
Yeah, Andrews is tough unless you get him really cheap. And even if you do get him cheap, like I just think it's hard with guys like that, especially with Likely. They're like, are you gonna start him on the right game? It feels like he's getting into that territory. You're like,
Right.
Andrews had a 25-point game. Yeah, let's go. And then you start him 2 weeks in a row for 6 points and hate
He did have
yourself.
8 touchdowns last year, which he's
He
he's
had
good
some
at
good games. That's my point. But I think I remember just like timing him was hard. And then the same with Likely though, huh? Like Likely had big games too.
Just for reference, Pat Fryermuth had 65 touches for catches for 653 yards last year and 7 TDs. And I would think most people would say Mark Andrews is the better tight end. I just don't see it anymore. In 2023, and in 2022, I mean, Fryermuth had 63. 2023 was a horrible year. They had Wilson, who was 32. But I don't know. I have Pat Fryermuth having a better year than Mark Andrews. All right, you have some avoid at all costs, and if Sebastian Castro is on this list, I'm gonna reach through the screen and grab your goatee.
No, I'll save that for the draft section.
Okay.
The avoid at all costs. I'll just go through it quick, and it's very simple. I just follow money, and when you follow money, and you see people still have name recognition, and they in these auctions and they're still paying for these guys, you got to just be like, I'm out.
Right.
Number one is Nate Landman, the Landman, Nate
Yep.
Landman. They're like, oh yeah, the Atlanta guy, yeah. Oh, he's on the Rams now. Oh, the Rams need a linebacker. So it feels like this is a really good opportunity and a good chance for Mr. Landman to make his chops. He got paid $1.1 million 1 year.
Hmm.
That is cut money. Like that is unless you are excellent or at bare minimum a very good special teams player, you won't be on this roster. So he's probably being paid like people are probably paying like in for him, like he'll be like if worse the linebacker too. And I bet it's going to be pretty bad for Mr. Landman. I like Paul that they drafted. I like they have two undrafted free agents, one that's not in our fucking system that I couldn't add because of this new stupid fucking rule, but I digress. And the Dolak was in the system and he got taken really high. I like him. We'll get to that when we review the later rounds. But I think there's guys way better than Landman already on the roster, and I think he's gonna suck ass.
Ben, I love that one. I made I fell into the landman trap by extending him. So I'm
Oof.
kind of kicking myself on that one. Oh, it's only in a year, but
It's tough to know, man.
I
Like,
signed him for 2. He's got 1 year left. It's just like, I thought it was a better situation, but that's a great point to follow the money in new contracts, and I don't do a good enough job of that. I think
well,
that's
I
super
mean, like
important.
sometimes you just don't know. Like I wouldn't have known last year. Like last year, Howard always sat there and said, if somebody who told me would Landman get more than $1 million, I'd be like, I mean, I would think so. He's got experience. He can play middle linebacker, but it is what it is.
Hey, buddy,
Uh,
keep firing. I have to go grab a
I got
charger.
you. That's fine. I see you. You got to do your thing. Um, Number two I have on this list is somebody who I was very shocked by this price tag, and this price tag has scared me off of owning him or going to get him anywhere, and that's EJ Speed. I was a big EJ Speed owner and a big EJ Speed fan when he was in Indianapolis. I touched on this before. He got a 1 year, $3.5 million. Now, this isn't Landman get cut money, but 1 year, $3.5 million is backup money. And like, I really thought EJ Speed was going to get like a 3 year, 15 million plus contract, maybe with that you could get off the third year. I don't know, like a value contract. But clearly, two things. Houston was his best offer at 3.5 million 1 year. So he couldn't get a multi-year deal with anyone. And then Indianapolis, who has no replacement for him except the guys we talked to before, said no thanks to 1 year, $3.5 million. So EJ Speed, to me, where I have seen him go, I've seen him get paid like LB2 for sure money. I think I've seen him go even higher than that. And EJ Speed he's got a 1 year, $3.5 million contract. Can he be to his talent and in that, yeah, defense, yeah. But like they still have Harris, they have 2020, like they just signed Alzaire, like that. He's not breaking through those three guys, I don't think. He might hit a rotation. He's probably just an emergency backup. And that's sad because I love DJ Speed. Especially he was so good, he was a holdout one of these years. Imagine you have a long contract that you're paying EJ Speed. He gets a holdout, gets a spike, and now he's a backup. So RIP Speed, EJ Speed owners, and I'm sorry if you paid a lot for him in any of these auctions this year because I think you're going to be very disappointed. And maybe his next team, he gets another chance and can get back into it. But EJ Speed is in dire straits. My next one is Devin White for the Raiders. He's not as hyped as he was now that they traded for I'm blanking. The Pratt from
Diablo?
no, the Diablo's in Atlanta now.
Oh, that's my fault. Yeah.
Pratt. So when they got traded for Pratt um from Cincinnati, they kind of changed this, but not really, right? He wasn't as hyped as he was, but the auctions, Corey, I don't know if you remember, but the auctions that we had in May, Devin White went for a lot of money. And Devin White is trash. I mean, trash. I think he had 20 fantasy points last year. He was cut by 3 teams. So he went to the Raiders, and my thought instantly, especially after the draft, was that job 100% is between um, Eichenberg and Lindenberg. I think I'm saying both those right. The rookie from Minnesota that they drafted in one of the late rounds, and then the rookie they drafted last year. So I thought for sure these are the two guys you should target because they're going to rise to the top. Pratt might hold that off for another year, but I'm telling you, Devin White might get cut. I just don't think he can be good enough to be on a team anymore. So I saw a lot of people paying a lot because they're like, oh well, he's going to start for the Raiders because they got no one else. Devin White, don't touch him. It's a disaster. The next one, which is another shocker, this just comes to like how random sometimes these positions are. Jason Pinnock, who went to the San Francisco 49ers. And it's like Jason Pinnock was like a league winner, I think 2 years ago, right? I think he had like 200 points for the Giants. I mean, he was a beast, and it was like off the waiver. And then, it's okay. They were going to move on because they got Tyler Nubin. So it's like, that's fine. The most money he could get was from the San Francisco 49ers on a 1-year, $2 million deal. So it's like, okay, Mustafa's hurt for a few games. I would bet their rookie that they drafted this year is who's going to replace him. I don't even think Pinnock's going to see the field. And that's crazy because he was on a shit Giants team, but he was a starter for 17 games, and I think he started for 14 the following year. But yeah, he's not somebody you want to touch with a 10-foot pole. But if it's name recognition, you're like, hey, man, I remember that guy scored a lot. You might look at him, he's in San Francisco. And I think some people paid money for him, like more than they should have. And he's not a guy. And then the last that I can't believe this guy is getting hype right now somehow. Marcus Davenport, the defensive end for the Detroit Lions, where everyone's just begging for somebody to be opposite of Aiden Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport. What happens is he goes team to team. We got this as a Viking. He doesn't stay healthy. He's horrible at taking care of his body, and he gets hurt immediately. And I think he probably fakes half his injuries. That's how crazy it is. So he'll do like a couple plays, and you'll be like, oh my God, he's a brick shithouse, and he can get in the backfield, and what a move. And then he doesn't play for you. So I saw him hyped up. I think he was on a 1-year deal. I think they gave him like 2 more years, like he played. Like he's the biggest con artist of anyone I've ever seen. Like how much money that guy's gotten paid for how many games he's played. So Marcus Davenport, defensive end for Detroit. There's just not a price that's worth even taking a shot on this guy. And that's it, Corey. I try to be quick because I know
Well,
we're
that was
way
great,
over.
man. I think that was the most excited I've seen you the whole pod is talking about guys that you wouldn't touch with, your own fake penis.
We don't always have to refer to every single NFL player with,
Well, it's just funny. I really like that story. It's a great story, and I'm just gonna
We're gonna
call
put
it as
those. We'll put those shorts out pretty soon here, and then we'll end up being viral and have to take this all seriously, all because of that stupid story.
yeah. All right, so we're 2 hours and 15 minutes in, so we're gonna speed through this next
It
little
says at the bottom
section.
we're an hour and 58.
Okay. All right. So we're 2 hours in. I thought we started at 9, but it's fine. This next one is just kind of for the boys because we got some messages in the message board that said that they want us to review a trade that actually happened that didn't involve us, which I think is more than fair. I do also want to take a quick pause here to say how fun the league has been over the last few weeks, like with the new energy of some of the new owners and just kind of the positive banter and just being able to talk like human beings and talk a little bit of travel and crack jokes and not be
Well, that
personally
chat's
attacking
different,
anybody.
isn't it?
It just feels good, man. Like it feels like a community that I can get behind, and I just what do they call the new owners and Harley and some of the other guys for just kind of chiming in, like even the 2025 podcast voice of the year so far with Last Dynasty. I think it's just been nice to see other people engaging and open up their personalities. We had a chugging video from Harley. We've talked about travel. Like I think there's a real future of us someday getting together in Costa Rica as a group of gentlemen and having a kick-ass time. So
Say never.
pretty excited about where we're at with the league and just kind of all the the community as it kind of is unfolding this year. I'm sure there's going to be some blow-ups. There always are, but seems like we got some great new owners in the league, and I think it's bringing out some of the best in all of us. So pretty cool shit. Um, so the trade that happened between Vito, who has his name for a reason, in case you want to dive into that history at some point, we'll let him do that. We're trying to book Vito soon. We just wanted to get a few on our way before we had guests, but definitely looking forward to having Harley on to do his analysis, which we're not going to talk about today because we don't have time. But I thought that was absolutely spectacular too. So,
Very good.
yeah, just really, really cool stuff that we have some pretty talented people in this league as well. Um, so Vito sent Pacheco, Troy Franklin, A.T. Perry, Mark Andrews, and McMillan, the line cornerback, $30 quarterback, $36 cornerback, to Hard Knocks for Ladd McConkey and Marshawn Lloyd. The total cap that Vito saved in that transaction was $149. If you looked at the projected points of all the players involved, and I did not include McMillan in this because he's a fucking cornerback, and it's just like I think you can find those points anywhere. Um, the Vito side, well, okay. I think he scored 105 points if you want to add that to the total. This is just for reference anyway, because points, can come from all different positions. So if you're trying to build depth, I get it. Vito is predicted to score 370 points between the two players. And
On the
no,
year?
I'm sorry. 375 points between the two players, and Hard Knocks is projected to score 455. So I'll open it up to you to give your honest opinion. Obviously, you're higher on Pacheco than I am, and that's a big piece of this deal. What was your thoughts on that trade?
Wasn't just Pacheco. There was two guys you hated in your segment, wasn't there?
Yeah, Mark Andrews as well.
Yeah. Okay, so Mark Andrews, I will say, now I think he's super expensive here. It's a different story.
He's $175.
I understand that, but it's a different
Yeah.
story in a 32 team league that it's, I mean, if you got to get a tight end in the auction, it's dire straits.
Correct.
Um, Pacheco's what, like $24 probably?
Yeah. You got Franklin at
And
32-ish. You got A.T. Perry around the $30 mark, and you got
Franklin was
McMillan.
like a first rounder last year. AT,
Yep, he was a late
AT
first rounder.
Perry.
A.T. Perry and Franklin both play at the Denver Broncos now.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, but still.
And the Broncos drafted Pat Bryant, and they have Vele, who they liked last year, and they still have Marvin Mims, and then they have Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
And Troy Franklin was not a draft pick by the coach.
Yeah, it was the same year.
Was it?
Mims wasn't.
Oh, Mims wasn't. You're right. Okay. Yep.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Franklin played with Knicks.
That's right. That's right.
So if you believe that can come around, it's interesting. Ladd, this is like very close to like that trade, that Justin Jefferson trade I did, just because like, is it worth giving all that up for Ladd? And Lloyd's not nothing, right?
But Okay, so what all are we giving up? I guess that's where I would start. You're
Well,
giving
that's what you said about my trade, but then somebody else said it was too many players because you have to. The thing about it is, it's
your player. I don't want to go back to that trade, but your players
we're
were
not going back to
completely
it.
different. You had two running backs that were under $25 that were scoring points already. Jalen
Pacheco's
Warren.
better than both of those were that then.
Okay. I don't think I would put Pacheco above Jalen Warren necessarily in the last year and like
Okay,
2 years.
okay.
Okay. All right.
I mean,
Continue on. I don't see the pieces. I guess that's what I'm
he's
saying.
a Jaleel McLaughlin then. Like I don't know. I don't worry. You hate him enough to where you're clearly not going to like this trade. You hate Andrews enough to where you're not going to like this trade.
It's not
I
that I
look.
hate Andrews. I hate Andrews on a 2 year contract for a team that, he's either going to retire. He's not a dominant player in this deal. I don't understand. I think the deal has to be Franklin Pacheco. Okay. Is
It's a
Franklin, what is
volume
he?
of players. They're gonna play for teams. They're gonna get points, man. Like I don't know what to say. Like if you just said it's predicted 450 on the other end, if it's going over positions that you need to get, then
Okay, so what could Vito get with $150? Can he get Levante David that could score 200 points? That makes it
maybe
575 to 455. Because you have to consider the $150 in cap that he
I
saved.
I understand that, but cap or you can get a wide receiver that fucking catches 30 balls. You know,
He's
I
not
don't
getting
know.
Braxton Berrios for $60. I can guarantee. No, I'm just kidding.
My
Um,
point is, I don't think it's as lopsided as you do. I probably would still take Lad because he's the best piece in the deal. I worry about Lloyd and how they feel about him. Unless something changes his training camp, he might be nothing. I think he was hurt, but I've heard other
all right,
things.
so he
So,
could be Trey Sermon and he could be done after 3 years and he's being
or
cut.
let's just
So,
say he's ends up being Jaleel McLaughlin. Can't call him Jalen Warren because he hasn't done anything yet. So, mm, like
I guess
it's
I'm gonna go to Hard Knocks team. Okay, if it's a complete rebuild, I don't understand why you would give up a top 12 wide receiver in dynasty football for um, some Jags and almost retired Mark Andrews and a running back
has Hard
that.
Knocks told you he's rebuilding?
No, that's why I have not looked at his team. I'm going to go pull it up right now and see where he's
We're
at.
in a super pot.
Right. Okay, so you think that Pacheco, Franklin, A.T. Perry, Mark Andrews um, is a better.
It's more players.
Okay. All
We've
right.
always in this league said more players has an outstanding value. They're not easy to get in the auction. They're not.
Okay, so how are both A.T. Perry and Troy Franklin going to score points if they're on the same team
I don't know.
with four other wide receivers that are probably ahead of them?
I don't
I
know.
guess I don't see
All
I
those
don't
wide
see the
receivers
value
are
in that.
trying to be sold by everyone, so I don't know what to tell you. We don't know anything. I know he really likes A.T. Perry because he drafted A.T. Perry in New Orleans. That's why he's on the team. So I don't know.
Okay.
Franklin's on the team because he was Bo Nix's favorite target. They're able to move the ball and do passing and volume, and like they looked pretty good last year. So I can both of those guys score zero next year? I mean, maybe, but I doubt it. I mean, they'll find some way to do it, get on the field.
Yeah. All right. Let me see where Hard Knocks is at from a team build. And I can't predict the
And
future.
again,
I don't remember who he took it over for. Here it is. He's got
Franklin's
Roshan.
more proven than Lloyd is.
He's got Jonathan Taylor. He's got three decent running backs. He's got Roshan. He's got Pacheco, and he's got Taylor. He's got Diggs. Ayuk, who will probably only play maybe 5 games of the regular season. Jalen Polk, Tyquan Thornton, Malik Heath, Troy Franklin, A.T. Perry. He's got some Jags at wide receivers.
Dude,
Diggs we've
this
talked
league,
about.
sometimes all you need is Jags.
He's got Andrews, and then he's got Nick Bonito, Braylon Trice, and Andre Jones at defensive end. So Benito's a solid.
To
Braylon
me, it
Trice.
sounds much more after the trade that he has less urgency to fill certain positions so he can not force the issue in some spots. Doesn't mean he will or won't, but it just feels to me he doesn't have to fill tight end. That's nice. He doesn't have to fill wide receiver unless he wants to get like a nice little wide receiver too. That's if he believes in Diggs.
He's got
That's fine.
$240 in cap left, so he took on 150 from Vito in the deal, so he could have 390 at auction. I just
390 goes quick.
Yeah, and 240 goes even faster. He doesn't have any linebackers. He's got Leo Chenal, Tyrese Knight, and Mac Wilson. So he needs to get some linebacker help. He's got
No, he doesn't.
cornerbacks.
All three of those guys score points.
Yeah, in the hundreds, low
So
hundreds.
so what?
Okay, I'm just saying, like, I don't consider him a top 12 team after looking at his roster. Therefore, I would not be giving up a top 12, top 10 running back, wide receiver after the year that Ladd put up, unless he's just absolutely thinks that Ladd was a fluke last year and he won't have a long career. Ladd could have been signed for 8 to 9 years. Name another person that will be playing in the NFL in 9 years that he got back in that trade.
I don't know. Troy Franklin, maybe.
If Troy Franklin is in the league in 9 years, Ben, I will retire from fantasy football.
You said who could be. I just said the
I
name that
just
could
don't
be.
believe it. I just don't. I mean, I just don't see that. But
Okay. Well, our,
okay.
our owners don't last 9 years on average. So if somebody was coming to this league, playing for a super pot, and they're trying to diversify their roster so they can go into an auction and fill spots instead of like dump $180 on one position or way more.
I
I
would
mean,
have
let's
been
say,
happier if he would have got a pick back or something, or if he wouldn't have, if the cap would have, there would have been a couple dumps back where he would have got something more
okay.
than what he got back. And I don't understand why Marshawn Lloyd's in the deal. If there's perceived no value there, it's like, okay, you
I don't.
dumped him.
There's definitely perceived value.
Well, I know, but he gave that up as well.
I
Like, I
know
don't
he's a
understand it.
okay.
It wasn't a beatable deal because you're basically saying that Pacheco, in my opinion, if you're trying to compete now, Pacheco and Mark Andrews and the possibility of Franklin and Perry are better than Ladd. And I just long term I don't like it. Short term I don't like it. And I certainly don't understand why he took on $150 in cap and gave up Marshawn Lloyd. So not a beatable trade. If Pacheco turns into a top 12 running back and is dominant and plays
What
for
do you
another
think
4 years,
Andrews would go for in the auction?
Mark Andrews, 175,
Okay.
150, probably like Zach Ertz money. Like, I mean, would I pay that? No. But if I needed a tight end, I guess, right? Um, I don't know. I mean, I know Vito got upset, and there was a lot of people that were kind of throwing some shade on the deal. I think it's a great move by Vito. I would have sold every single one of the players that he gave up, sold them all. And I certainly would never have thought that I could get Ladd McConkey and Marshawn Lloyd out of a deal like that. So,
I wouldn't
um,
have either, but
I mean, that's my honest opinion. I mean, it could work out. I think, boy, I like Ladd. I like Ladd a lot. I think he's just a PPR monster. I think he's going to be, pretty good for a lot of years. And I just don't see him, uh, worth. I don't see the value he got returned for Ladd alone, let alone throwing Marshawn Lloyd in it. But that's why we have vetoes. That's why we all have different values of players, and it could work out, and it could be a disaster. My bet is that it is not going to work out with Pacheco and the other two wide receivers, and I think Mark Andrews is about one leg out of the league. So um, I don't know. That's my thoughts. We disagree,
Mhm.
but we shall find out. All right, last segment. The auction, the old dirty, dirty.
Thought we were doing the draft
Oh shit,
round
we
one
still have
and
to do the
two.
draft. We're gonna save the auction till next week then, because we don't have.
Yeah,
I don't have. I
we don't
can't.
have time to talk
Yeah.
about the auction.
All right, so we're gonna do the first two rounds of the draft. We're just gonna highlight some of our top picks, and maybe some of the ones that we didn't like quite as much. I don't know if you can pull it up on your computer, Ben. So we're kind of looking at this together. I'm just going to name the first five picks. We don't have to talk about any of them. We talked about some of this previously. I think a little bit just in some of the evaluations, but it went Ashton Genty, McMillan, Travis Hunter, Omarion Hampton, Caleb Johnson, the first five. Um, I'm just going to go out on record and saying fucking Bad Boys destroyed the first 10 picks. Like, just absolutely destroyed it. He got Genty number one. No surprise there. Absolute stud. 0.05% chance that he doesn't produce value, barring injury. And then, people passed on Hampton, a running back position. I certainly, I'm not as high on Hampton as other people are, but he got him at 4 overall, and then he followed up and made a trade and moved up and got Egbuka. I mean, just hitting those 3 picks is just woof. I just don't see a lot of possibility for him not getting value out of those 3 players, and I just think it was a masterful job by Bad Boys.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he did the fastest rebuild I've ever seen anyone outside of like maybe Roman do.
Yeah, maybe Roman. I think I call him Roman. You call him Roman.
His
Uh,
name's Roman. You call him Roman.
I know. He never corrected me once. Love that dude. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, geez, that was quick. And he was somewhat competitive like over the years too. It wasn't like he had a dumpster fire. He just made
Hmm.
a lot of good moves and savvy moves to get his team to a powerhouse, in my opinion. He is going to be tough to beat in the division that we're in. So, um, anything to add there?
Uh-oh.
I liked the Caleb Johnson pick by Fleece. I had him over Henderson and
Is that
Judkins.
one of your top fives?
Um, Caleb Johnson went 5. Yeah, I
No,
like
your
Caleb.
top five values. I thought we were doing top
No, I
five
don't think
values
that's the
and
top 5
worst
value.
five. Okay.
It went Harvey or Henderson, Harvey, Judkins, Egbuka, and then Golden the next 5. Um, Kind of chalky there. I know we've talked a little bit about RJ Harvey. I think you have him about 65th in this draft or something around there.
He's my top. He's in my top five worst picks of this draft.
Wow, Vito taking shots early on that one. I kind of agree with that. No, I wouldn't say it was top 5 worst picks. I think after they signed Dobbins and having that information, you had to question why. And I just wouldn't have taken him before Judkins or some of the wide receivers on the board.
Or anyone the next 6 picks, 7 picks, 8 picks, 10 picks, etc.
It's
Yeah.
certainly a boom or bust type pick. Then we had kind of the receivers jump off the board. Golden. We had Loveland. I loved the pick by West Canyon Coyotes.
Homer.
Obviously, well, yeah. But again, we're talking about the tight end position. That if you can get a stud,
Yes.
you're light years ahead
Just
of
talk about
everybody.
paying $175 for Mark Andrews. I sure as shit would rather have $50 for Colson Loveland or
The
whatever
funny
that
thing
price
about
is.
the Coyotes is that he didn't log on to the league apparently for like 65 days.
Right.
Nobody knew if he was going to draft, and then he came actually back into the draft like with about an hour to spare both times and had a couple of nice picks. So
Hmm.
um, I like the Milkman got Tyler Warren. I don't like him as much as Loveland this year, but I think that's a solid pick for 12, a safe pick. Then it went Trey Harris, Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins, and then Bayshall Tootin at 16, which is one of my least favorite picks in the first round.
That's my next one as well. So that's my
Yeah,
second top five worst pick.
I don't understand the hype on him. I think people are way too down on ETN. I think they're way too down on Tank Bigsby. I don't think that he
I've
is
heard people
worthy.
say ETN is unplayable. I just like, oh, I don't. Do they not watch the games?
Yeah,
He
I
gets
know.
hurt a lot. He's not unplayable. He's actually really pretty good. I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand where the hate comes from.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm not. I'm sorry, freshly squeezed. I just think that's way too risky of a pick to take 16 overall. I know the running back position is super necessary. Um, that just would not have been my running back of choice at that spot. And then it went Scattaboo, Kyle Williams, Pat Bryant, and then the
Told you
first.
Kyle Williams was going high last pod.
Yeah, I mean, um, I guess you're kind of reaching for wide receivers at that point, and not reaching like that. He's probably right in line. I don't necessarily love the Pat Bryant pick at 19, and
Yeah, I
I
have a
think
tough. I'm not a believer either. I think a lot of people want him to be Mike Thomas, uh, and that's kind of what their hopes is for him. You
and
know,
then
because it's Sean Payton.
Fleece went with the first linebacker or IDP off the board with Carson Schwessinger, who
Hmm.
was the best, prospect in the draft as far as I had read at the LB spot. I don't recall where typically linebackers go. My only thought is unless you have an absolute dominant defensive end room, I don't know how you take Schlesinger over Abdul Carter in that spot. Like, I just
It's pretty
Abdul
normal for
Carter's a
this league. It's pretty
yeah,
normal for
yeah.
this league. They're so much harder to get.
I think getting Abdul Carter at 122 is a great value for the Acme Packers. It's about as safe as you can get. I just, I really like that value. Um,
Well,
Jahad Campbell.
we didn't talk about the Luther Burden value, which I thought was absurd. Like Luther Burden dropping to 114 was
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah,
I couldn't believe it. So that was in my top five values.
yeah, that's it. I mean, it was Jason on a boat going to Alaska or wherever the hell he was, and it was, me making a move to try to get him when he's almost expiring and thinking, well, I'm going to get Bird in here because he's going to get skipped, and he pops in. He had DJ Moore already, so I was like, there's no way he's going to take Bird in as well. And he did, and I think it's great value. I would have obviously taken Burden over Higgins, but at this point, I'm like okay with what happened for me because I think Jaden Higgins is having a pretty damn good camp, and I don't think it's. I think, yeah, I mean, but Burden has probably way more upside over the next 3 or 4 years than,
Trey Harris, who went right before him,
or yeah, I mean,
or RJ Harvey.
I had Burden over I had Burden over Golden as well. So I mean, it's just
Yeah, and I
you know
think it's okay if people do, or even over Emeka Ibuka. You know, we're in super pot year, so it scares people off. But I just, I don't hate the Trey Harris pick because I think it's just, maybe a couple off of what I would have picked. But Luther Burden dropping to 14 was a steal, I thought.
then we had another linebacker go with Campbell. Jack Betch went 124.
Yeah,
I think that's a good value too.
that
And go ahead.
I yeah, I agree. It's very good value there.
I tried like hell to get that pick and move up
So did
from
I. I
203.
think
I
you and I were both trying to move up to get that one.
couldn't get there. The funny thing is, like, there's just we're a little bit later in this draft, and so you have Betch that goes 24, and then you have Dante Thornton, who I had not even really had on my radar at all, and Vito takes him at 128.
Yeah,
And
spoiler alert, Vito has two of my top five worst picks with that one. I thought that was way out of pocket, too high.
yeah, I I agree.
And I get you can read things in camp. Okay, but there is a thing called draft capital, and it matters a lot.
It does.
Um,
It does. And I think sometimes like teams are kind of hyping up their own players and there's no pads on and it's completely different and it's like there's just I don't I mean could be completely wrong and like he could be, their number two guy like, and if, behind Bauer, I just I didn't understand the reach there. Yeah, you still had Jalen Royals on the board with the Chiefs offense. You have Harold Fanning, who I loved at pick 130. I tried to move up to get him. Like I think that's a pretty safe, solid bet. Boy, I was trying to move up from 203 to get in there and pick him. But Jason again on a boat to Alaska and sneaks in last minute after 3 hours and 37 minutes and picks Fannin. So I think that's one of my kind of best values. That's where I drafted Fryermuth my first year. I think picking tight ends late in the first round that are top two or three in their class is like a really smart, safe play, because you're going to get value back. I think, unless it's a complete random bust, but I don't think Fannin will be. Um, Brute Force came in at 132 and got Dylan Sampson, which I think it's fine value there. Probably
yeah,
the last safe running back that had pretty decent draft capital, and so I kind of like that pick. And then Saquon came in with Jalen Walker, and then we had Terrence Ferguson, Rams tight end,
I'm
who
high
was
on him. I know you don't like him, but I'm high on him. I thought
I,
getting any of
yeah
those tight ends, I thought if you could get any of those in the second round, that was going to be a good value because it drops just enough a tier of salary. We talk about having to wait those. You might have to wait 2 years for a guy to start, and then you got to extend. It's just feels better. So he was the only one that
yeah, and
held out to that point. So I thought it was a good value to get him at
I
202.
was I was leaning towards taking him with my 203 if he fell. Like after I kind of saw that you were high on him, like quite honestly, I went and watched his tape and I'm like, wow, I could see him working in the Rams offense and like being explosive down the middle and kind of stretching the seams and like so I kind of did watch some tape after he was mentioned a few times and certainly I think taking a tight end that has a chance to after year one be a major contributor in a pretty good offensive scheme with a good coach, like there's a reason why they drafted him and they plan on using him. So in some sort of capacity, right? They only have Higby in front of him, and he's just kind of on
Coming
his
off like
last leg.
he came off an Achilles, and like I don't know, he hasn't really shown that he can be healthy again.
I
So you
think
don't know.
the next section of picks is where we see a huge run of running backs, which are your kind of fourth round and later kind of draft capital running backs or fifth round. I took Rashard Smith, which I've talked about. I know he's a seventh round draft pick, but I just feel confident that they're going to find a way to use him. And even if it's kick returns and, catching a few balls out of the
So my
backfield,
top five worst picks of the first 2 rounds, Corey.
that's fine. I appreciate the feedback. I picked him up everywhere in all four leagues, so I am all in on the Brashard Smith hype train. I picked him over Jaden Blue. I was originally looking at both of those guys, and I just felt like the upside of what I saw. The only reason that I didn't draft Brashard Smith earlier in other leagues was he seemed to fumble a lot. and that's what scared me. And I just think.
Good thing Andy Reid likes fumbles.
Right, yeah, and it was more like on breakaways or someone coming and punch it out behind him when he was in the open field and stuff like that. I feel like if he can get that under control, and earn their trust, that he'll be okay. And I could be completely wrong, and that could be an absolute bust pick, or I could score 120 points.
32 teams were wrong on him 6 rounds in a row, I guess.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. That's the risk we take. So then when Jaden
203
Blue
is high.
Giddens, wasn't a fan of the Giddens pick. I talked to Brute Force about it. I tried to like him.
I like
think
him. I don't know about that high, but we're at like this running back run you're talking about. It's almost how I could forgive yours, but I definitely like. I think it's a lot of dealer's choice here where these running backs were specifically with you. You're the first one to start the run, and
Yep.
I
And they
liked
just
all the
started
guys
going.
afterwards. I would have taken Blue over him. I would have taken Gibbons over him. I would have taken Neal over him. I'd have taken. Well, in order, I would have gone Blue, Hunter,
Hmm.
Neal, Giddens, then Taj Brooks. That would have been the order I probably would have done. And then I would have thrown your little Brashard Smith in there after that. Nope.
All
I would
right.
have taken Jordan James and Trevor Etienne. I would have taken them both over him. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not that
Shit
high.
pick. Absolute shit pick.
Hey man, I see him getting stolen off taxi squads. Other people are hyped about him. It's not just you, so it can't be shit. And I could be wrong, just like I probably have a better chance of being wrong about RJ Harvey, even though I don't think so
Yeah.
personally.
I think what's kind of interesting about these, it's like pick 33 through whatever, 60. I think what was a little bit surprising to me is everybody is throwing somewhat of a dart on an offensive player, except for shit, man. You have to look hard. There's a safety that went 219, the best safety in the class, right? Like, I think that's too high for a safety, but like,
I don't
James
know why
Pierce.
Nick Emanuel ended up being the best safety. Well, this is not for time to waste right now, but I never thought he was. I thought he was like the fifth best safety going into the draft until he got like a ton of hype like 2 weeks before. We'll see.
What was like I'll throw out a name. I would have in those ranges probably taken a Chris Paul or a Stuntsman, like as opposed to, taking a leap at Torrey Horton or Woody Marks or, Isaiah Tesla, like because I just had too many bad draft picks in, the wide receiver range where you're just they're not high
Well,
profile
running
wide
running
receivers.
backs and wide receivers, man, like they're scarce hard. So are linebackers, you know. So like you always find yourself like kind of getting into the business of those a little higher than you want to, right? But that's why
Ex-
those first rounders, even if you're reaching a little on, a guy like Trey Harris, well, that's probably better than what you're getting 20 picks later, like by a large margin, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, I did, and I'm not doing this on like your pick was 216 with Torrey Horton. I mean I think that's probably a pretty good pick because they don't have a lot of wide receiver depth, right? Like they have Jackson Smith, who's going to have a stellar year. Who else do they have there? Like so when you're taking a pick on a rookie, that's kind of a upside pick. Like you got to look at depth charts and kind of figure it out. Like I don't know. It's
yeah, I mean, like, it's also, some of these things aren't, they don't go with context, but like roster builds. I mean,
correct.
my wide receivers were the cupboard is bare. So I need to like take some calculated darts, So for Torrey Horton,
I like the Savion Williams by West Canyon Coyotes
I
at
do too.
211. I think that's a really good gadget kind of, not Debo Samuel like kind of raw player that like if a couple years from now that one could have have some pay back to it. And then I did like Jason's pick. Like that's three of Jason's pick that like I think he got good value on Trevor Etienne. I know it's a
I
crowded
agree.
backfield. They got freaking not Chubb. The kid that they just signed out of.
Tuttle, your boy from the Cowboys.
No. The other guy that's the starter, Hubbard.
They
I
have
mean, they
Hubbard
have
and they have Dowdle.
yeah, but then Etienne's a completely different back than both of those guys, and I think
Oh,
I just
100%.
I like the value there.
I agree.
Vito with Woody Marks.
It's a
Again,
good
like
pick, man. It's okay. I think Woody Marks, I know Chubb got signed, but we still don't know if Chubb can be good yet. Woody Marks could be a backup, like the
yeah,
backup,
yeah, and
So it's like
I did like the
I'm
way he
okay
caught
with
the
it.
football. Yeah, I liked his kind of receiving upside too. And then we keep moving on down here. Like you start to see more linebackers go. Cody Simon from
James
Arizona.
Spears, I thought, was a nice value, but he's kind of been a nice value ever. Some drafts he'll go high, and
Yeah,
like because and the people take him high are people who probably watched a lot of college, and like he was perceived by some to be the second best pass rusher behind Abdul Carter. Maybe a little more raw, but like he could be like Jared Verse. I wouldn't be surprised, right? Like the guy that didn't went, you know, fourth of the DNs and ends up being one of the best.
right. Yeah. In
Um,
general, I thought some of the defensive ends went too late. I thought it was a pretty good defensive end class, and like I felt like had I
yeah, but
had more
that's
picks in that
because
round.
every roster's got DNs, man. I have a bunch of DNs. I'm very happy with my DM depth, and I
Yeah,
felt the same way. I was like, I think they're where did yeah, I mean like I had spots and I would normally be like, yeah, I should take this guy, and I couldn't
I
talk
love.
myself into
I
it.
I loved your Gunnar Helm pick at 302. I think he can step in almost halfway through the year. Like they're almost going to use him as like a big wide receiver, and I think he'll play you know, early in the season, and
Yeah.
I like that
My only
pick a
tight
lot.
end too, since I fumbled my Zach Ertz
Sign.
holdout. No, the holdout. I didn't accept him.
I think
Um
Penn got great value with Arian Smith, who's been making noise in camp, and Shamar Stewart at 303 and 305.
Penn drafts like the Eagles. It's just every fucking time, it's like a guy's falling. Like
and he got
I
and he
was
got
gonna
Jack Kaiser, who I was high on too at
yeah.
307. Like Penn having that many draft picks is dangerous. He is.
Shamar Stewart's good. I mean, if they get it all settled out with his contract, he's probably a year one starter. I mean, I don't know.
If you
Pretty
look
good.
at West Canyon Coyotes, he got Damian Martinez at 311, right? Like where everybody else was kind of reaching for the same kind of running back at like 203 to
Yeah,
20,
that's actually
you
a
know.
pretty good value there now that I think about it. He was just not on my radar because he wasn't a guy I was drafting, but in comparison to your point, he was usually going right after that run. But then, I don't know, we got a lot of defensive players start coming off the board.
I thought, I'm sorry, I'm going backwards a little bit.
That's okay.
The Bears linebacker, I thought that was a reach at 301.
Yes,
Um,
I agree. I really liked Kaiser more than him. I liked Barrett more than him. I liked man, Teddy Buchanan fell. Yeah, I like that pick by Saquon Mike Johnson. I mean there's a world where like Shipley like not Shipley. Yeah, Shipley? No, not Shipley. Simpson. Sorry. Trent Simpson doesn't work out. Like he hasn't shown a ton. So what if Buchanan like can get that spot next to Roquan? I mean, that's potentially a very good pick.
yeah, I was trying to go back. Who is the rookie that Cincinnati drafted that linebacker? I like that pick
Oh,
because of,
Knight?
yeah,
Knight was
because,
on my
yeah,
top five favorites, and the
yeah.
reason is because I don't think anyone properly adjusted. Well, I I drafted all after the news, right? Like most of the places where I took linebackers were like the May drafts. But as soon as Pratt got shipped out to Las Vegas, Knight should have been number one.
Yeah, he went 125, and I was hoping that he would fall to 203, and I knew he wouldn't, but I was definitely taking him there over anything
Yeah.
else. Um, but yeah, that I think that's a very good value pick at 125. Sorry for bouncing back and forth, but
No,
I
it's
went.
okay. We forgot to talk about him. He's on my top, one of my top five. Like I thought if you're gonna get the third, we can say it's too early, too late. But if you're gonna get the third linebacker that can arguably be the number, one. I mean, he's got rookie of the year potential. That kid. If they give him the green dot there, he could really, he could really be special.
What else? Oh, Mason Graham going 310 overall as the first defensive tackle. No, Derek Harmon went. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they went back to back, right?
309 and then 310. I just feel like that's too early for a defensive tackle, in my opinion, but it's a very safe pick. If they're dominant and turn into, 150 point kind of score. I think my
Yeah.
first year I took Derek Brown 4 or something, like, and I'm just like, it's kind of like, yeah,
Here's
you
how
could.
here's how I feel about D tackles. The thing about it is, like in our extension rules, you can extend a guy as a D tackle to $10, right? Whereas everyone else is 20. Um, so it's like as the minimum, right? The minimum jump. So
But
if
they're
you have a guy
already almost
for
at $10 at 310, right?
that's my point. Like if you take a D tackle there, your extension value, you get no extension value. Whereas if you got him in like the fifth round and your D tackle works out, you know, by the time you get around to extending him, it's like, it is what it is. But the thing is, if you want a stud, you got to take a shot in that third round. They almost aren't going to fall in the fourth round unless fifth and later, unless you get really lucky, because D tackles are one of those things that like, you know, that the freak generational guys that are going top 10 in these drafts, it's it,
Yeah.
it it almost should feel nice that you can get that in the third round, but I never consider it. So I applaud people who do because it's a sure thing. Those guys are sure things.
Yeah, so Bad Boys and you both took safeties
Hmm.
at 316 and 318, and that was my target for 323. I was actually going to go after the kid from Penn State, which I think is Winston. Yeah, that was
Hmm.
kind of my first target. And then what the third worst pick of the draft is my Sebastian Castro pick, apparently. So tell me your feelings on that.
I still have not seen a ranking updated that has him ranked for rookie safeties.
Hmm, interesting. I saw him in the top six. I'll have to send you the link.
Please do. I've
Yeah.
I've looked everywhere. He's not listed, and he's not listed because he's an undrafted free agent, and you took an undrafted free agent safety in the third round. That feels bad.
Yeah, I like the fact that
Hey, buddy's from Iowa, so I
no,
figured you had a
well,
double dose of you know,
yeah,
the trade clamor, and then the Iowa love.
well, I did watch him a lot, and he is a missile, and he plays uh, the cash position at Iowa, which is what Cooper DeJean played.
Hmm.
Um, he's a little bit more athletic than everybody thinks he is. I think everybody was surprised he didn't get drafted. But then when Minka was let go, I think it opened up an opportunity for him, and they must have liked what they saw. So that's what I based some of my decision off of. So could be completely wrong.
I don't even. I think he's probably still going to be a practice squad guy.
Okay, all right. Well, you are the IDP expert. I'm just a guy trying to make a buck. I like the Ricky White pick by Fleece at 326. He's been making some noise from what I've seen.
Return chops too.
Yeah.
Ricky White. He's got there are some guys there like Bobo and like some guys, but I think I think I got White in some spots. I think White might should make the roster. Even if he's a practice squad guy because they don't need him as a returner. Um he would be like instantly if somebody got hurt in the return game, he would be the instant elevation. So I think it's a good pick.
Yeah. I think that wraps it up for the pod today, buddy. That's
Mm-hmm.
3 rounds basically. I know we didn't touch on every pick, but we got through a lot today. So I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Keep that positive energy flowing through chat. The auction kicks off Saturday, I think. It's going to be a doozy, especially for the new guys that don't know what to expect.
Boy.
Yeah, we'll cover that next week. I wish we had time to cover kind of some expectations. Maybe we can do 3 minutes. Let me do 3 minutes with you. I'm
All
just going
right.
to throw out some. I'm going to throw out some players in the top 10. We're going to go through the top 10 and we're going to be done. Okay, and
Okay.
we're going to do it quick. All I'm going to say is, what do you think he goes for?
That's fine. We can do this rapid fire.
Yeah, let me see. How do I get to that on the top free agents? I'll do it for my cell phone because I know how to use that better. I don't use the site. Like when people send links and stuff, I'd have no idea how to look at them or.
Complete free agent listing
Yeah,
under
I got.
player research.
Okay.
Then pick the position you want to do. And then
Well, we'll just do all positions and the top projected points by the position, other than quarterbacks. Boy, there's a lot. So Tyreek Hill is the first one on the list.
no,
What?
Mike Evans is. Oh,
Oh,
I
is he?
guess we're looking at it differently. I
Yeah, I don't have him first. But
okay.
regardless, go ahead. What do you think Tyreek goes for? I don't have enough
300
money. I don't have enough money to cover any
300
of it.
$310.
I think we have to remember there's 3 owners that have a lot of draft capital because they were in the ROD. So
Mm.
my suggestion to those
I think
folks
new
are,
owners don't spend enough early.
yeah, my suggestion is to try to get as many assets that have decent contracts that can put up points so you can trade it for draft capital this year. Just a personal uh,
That could work too.
if you're not going to compete, so you might as well get guys that you can sell for assets for those that are trying
Is
to
Mike
bid
Evans
for
going
it.
for 400? Maybe Tyreek
So
goes
I
for
will say that
400.
Tyreek goes between 280 and 320, and then we have Tony Pollard next
Okay.
on my list.
All right. I'll go by your list.
I will say
Tony,
that Tony Pollard goes between 240 and 280. What do you think?
I think he gets closer to 300.
Okay.
I
Then we
think
have
you're right. That's a good assessment.
Mike Evans.
Yeah, 400.
Yeah, I would say 375 to 425. I'd rather have him over Tyreek. Just
Tyreek's
too
probably 350 then.
yeah, too
Yeah.
much uncertainty with the old Dolphins. Bradley Chubb is on next on my list.
Your list is so weird. Okay, so Bradley Chubb. I just don't know if he's even who else is available, but let's see. D end. He's probably one of the top
The
free agents
next
available.
the next one is Kyle Van Noy on the projected points list.
Yeah, so
Boy, I'll say
120, 140.
yeah, that's what I was
140.
thinking 125 to 150
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, we had like 180 last year. Somebody went for.
Kevin Byard, the safety from Chicago. I'm going to say 75 to 95.
Yeah. Yeah, the top safeties available usually hit around an average of $80, I think, if I remember right.
Jacoby Myers, I'm going to say
Interesting.
it's 225.
Yeah, probably. He's not like people don't like him that much, and he's like more of a risk, but Jesus. Jacoby for 240
This is really fun when you don't have any
is
money.
pretty gnarly. Yeah.
This is real fun when you don't have any money. Okay, a couple more here. I'm just going to pick some oldies but some goodies. Levante David and Demario Davis as linebackers. Where do you think they go?
150 apiece.
Yeah, all day. 1-year contracts. Joey Bosa.
Ooh. Name recognition. Hasn't been good for a while. 52.
Oh no, I would say 74.
Do you think people think he's still that good?
I don't think it matters. I think you're right
Okay.
with the name recognition. I think they're gonna you spend early because there's not gonna be much left anyway.
All right, fair.
It's okay. Last two, just because it's fun. Devin Singletary and Zach Moss.
Oh, damn.
I'm gonna say they're like 150 to 180.
Well, no, Devin Singletary's less than Zach Moss.
Zach Moss was like $300 last year.
Well, that's because I thought he was competing with Chase Brown.
We didn't do a tight end. Zach Ertz.
Oh, wow. Yeah, probably 180.
Yeah, I was saying 165 to 180. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's
Gross.
crazy, boys. It's gonna be crazy. Get your money ready. Well, bud, that was just under 3 hours, and so we
but that's fine.
did a double pod, and that was fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If I were going to put a song out for this podcast, we'll call it Big Dogs. Search it, love it, Big Dogs. You hear it everywhere. It's awesome. All right, buddy. It's great seeing you. Cut this up and make us look good.
I will be doing that in the morning, as it is quite late right now.
All right. Sweet dreams, Buttercup. Rest up.
All right, later.
Bye.